Come on in here, y'all. Come on in here. Share via text. Let me share this with Dr. Short. Let me text his link to him. There we go. We got everybody up here. What's up, everybody up in here so far? What's up, everybody? What's up, Eve? Eve, do you want to moderate? Hit me with a thumbs up if you're down to moderate, Eve. All right, cool. You got me the black power fist. That's just as good. That's just as good. Let me see here. Add invite to co-host. Go. Dr. Short, invite to co-host. Boom. All right, cool. Everything's in. So I'm gonna lay the foundation as to why we having this talk. Dr. Short, I've answered your request. Come on in whenever you're ready, brother. Um, why are we having this talk? Dr. Short's gonna break it all down. He's gonna break it all down, but I want to lay the foundation and set the table as to why are we having this discussion. And then Dr. Short's gonna go all the way in like he always does. But the question is, are black men and women being erased? And this is the reason why I'm having this question. We all kind of know the answer to this shit, but we want to talk about it. You dig? And I'm bringing this up because for those of you who saw my episode of Fox Soul, you saw I was on there with Dr. Umar, Cynthia G, looking like a SWV reject, and a dude that was dressed as a man that was dressed as a woman that we didn't know was a man. And no disrespect to to homie, no disrespect to the LGBTQ or trans community, but we were bamboozled. We didn't know that we were talking to a man dressed as a woman, and that takes on a different tone of conversation when you know what you're dealing with. Well, apparently, after a couple weeks ago, I went back. I went on 5150 with Corey Holcomb, and y'all know Corey Holcomb. He be going all the way in, you know, all the way in. Then once he's finished going all the way in, he multiplies that. Um, he cubes that number, and so we all know how he get down. So when we did 5150, it got back to the people at Fox Soul. You know how angry, not just 5150. You guys, everybody on Twitter, people tweeting like, "Hey, that's not cool that y'all set me and Umar up." Well, that got back to Fox Soul. I got somebody that works up in there, and they basically let me know that there was a very big meeting that they had last week, and it was about the whole trans community and should straight men be notified when we're dealing with a trans person. And they had it out, and then one of the people there decided to say, hey, let's do a show. And so on Tuesday, I'll be back on Fox Soul, and it's going to be a show about should trans people identify themselves as trans when interacting with the rest of us who are in our natural born state. And y'all know what I'm going to say to that. But the bigger picture to this is this, and this is something that Dr. Short and I talked about on the phone last night, and this is what got us to do the show based off of a conversation that we had last night on the phone. And I was telling him that, I was doing some research into the people that work at Fox Soul. All that stuff is public information. Because I used to go down to the studio when they had the studio, but since coronavirus, you do everything basically through the computer. But when I did some research, I saw that basically all of the black men who work there are gay. Um, the person that's one of the higher ups there. I'm not sure if he's the hiring manager or lead producer. I forgot his name. I don't have his name in front of me right now because I'm not on my computer. But he's a gay white male. But it seems as if there's gay white men basically only hiring gay black men to do for anchor jobs and jobs behind the scenes if they're black. And then we see all the time, like we saw when if you saw that lawsuit a few years ago from the Oprah Winfrey Network when she sold her network. But there was, I don't know if you guys saw, I think it's 2018, there was harassment suit going on, and basically what we found out was that OWN was basically all white lesbians. You know what I mean? And so that begs the question: are these people? We see it happening on TV, but now it's starting to happen in work positions. I know people who work in different industries. I know I was talking to a brother that lives down in Atlanta, and he was telling me that at his office they basically replacing the straight men with gay men, and one by one. And we're starting to see this happen not only with racism, dealing with Mexicans and Asians and all these other groups within our world, within our community. The straight people in a lot of different areas and sectors of society are being replaced by gay people. And it isn't to talk crap about gay people. We ain't tripping. Y'all can be gay all y'all want. Don't give a damn. We're talking about the powers that be and the structure of the society that we live in, and how the society seems to be, based off what we're seeing, replacing the few places where straight black men and women work. They're being replaced by gay black men and women if they're not being outright replaced by immigrants or some other group that's not black and straight. So we see that happening all around. Today in LA, it was a leak about the president of the city council talking shit about black people, calling a black child a monkey, and saying, other city councilmen only work with the blacks, and we see what's going on. So we want to have this discussion. Are black men and women being erased? And it's not just an erasure on racial lines, but it also seems to be an erasure along sexual preference too. And so we want to have this discussion and talk it out. And so with that, I bring Dr. Short to the table. And as Dr. Short talks, if you guys have any questions later on, save your questions. He'll get to you, and we want to interact with you guys. But I want Dr. Short now to turn on your mic, and then let's talk about our black men and women being erased. Dr. Short, what's your point of view on this whole situation?
Well, of course, there's always been a desire to erase us. This is as old as the Republic, in fact, older than the Republic. And I'll just put a pitch in. I talk about this a little bit, just a little bit, in my book, Slavery's Mastery, about the first place in which they wanted Black people erased is if they were not slaves, they needed to be erased. That's discussed in my book, Slavery's Mastery, which you can get from Amazon.com or hollismedia.net. So, and I'll give an example. In my book, I talk about a religious doctrine called the providential design, wherein white theologians from Princeton University and in the Presbyterian and Reformed churches taught that the only way that Black people could fit in America was as slaves, and that free Black people needed to be removed from America, or else they would overpopulate the land and have a racial war in which whites would be exterminated. So the answer to keeping white control in America is to make certain that this remained a slave-holding society with Blacks as slaves, and the best mode for erasure was to repatriate or to send anybody Black that was free back to Africa. That was the kind way. The unkind way is that Blacks would just have to be exterminated that were not slaves. Providential design, that's discussed in my book, Slavery's Mastery.
That's a great foundation you just laid right there. So what we're seeing, in other words, is a play out of a plan that's been in place for hundreds of years.
Yes.
That's why, let's talk about studying history is so important and understanding the nuances of history. We get to see where we are, and we get to see where in the past how we've thwarted these type of agendas to see what we need to do now. Talk to us, Dr. Short, about you're over in DC, and I know that you guys have a Atlanta-esque LGBTQ population over there. Do you see a similar situation happening with the government jobs and the jobs in DC, like being basically taken from straight people and given to gay people?
Yes. it's not just that. I mean, in fact, it's not just jobs. There was a case here where they had a homeless shelter for abused women, and primarily I would say black women are there, and someone who was white and male who was gay representing himself as a woman wanted to be there, and the people says, oh no, you can't do this, this is for women and sometimes their children, and he sued. I mean, so you imagine women can't run away to safety. And so not only can you be erased, you could be augmented, or your numbers could be increased by people who are not really what they say they are.
Mm-hmm.
Or the same in prisons under our wonderful savior, soul brother number one, Barack Hussein Obama, that if you say you're a woman and you're a man and you commit a crime, in fact, had Jeffrey Dahmer been around when Obama was president, he could have said he was a woman and he could be in prison raping black women in prison as a woman.
So,
And I have even gotten to job stuff here in the city. I'm just saying that there are laws and things in place that theoretically erase people, and who is most easily violated in terms of the law or rights or treatment is
mm-hmm.
us. And every city has this group called GLAY, stands for Gay and Lesbian Activist Alliance. And in order for you to get elected, especially here in DC, you have to sign an agreement with the Gay and Lesbian Activist Alliance, where one of the things that you could do, one of the things that they want is you are whatever you want to be on your birth certificate. So if I'm a white man that wants to have sex with black men or something like that, I can say, if this is what this hasn't been made law yet, but this is what people have agreed to get the support of these groups, which are rich. See, let's just stop for 1 second. The LGBTQ movement is total bullshit. It's a white supremacist movement where people are freaks. I said it just like that. Deviant people who are an invented minority group to counter the movement of black people. I repeat, LGBTQ is a psych op, and we are the target of it. And this was discussed and thought out and manipulated in 2 stages. One with Alfred Kinsey, a deviant serial pedophile rapist, omnisexual white gentleman from Indiana, Alfred Kinsey, and they were working to make it out that 1 in 10 people are homosexual or bisexual or more. The reason being because these folks looked at human rights and they were looking at the situation, ironically, that Paul Robeson, William Patterson, and other blacks who are going to the then new United Nations, making arguments about the situation that black people faced. And this even goes back to, really, my friends, the League of Nations, And the whole argument in that and the understanding that national minorities, a national minority is a group of people who constitute more or less a unique and distinct ethnic group of people with a culture and a history that is distinct from the majority population or a variety of populations within a larger society. Ideally, one of the things that would qualify people to be recognized as a national minority group is to have a sizable population. The preferable number is to at least be 10% or more. And notice how they always have black folks as listed as just about 10%, which is a lie. And if you respect black leadership, you're stupid. They don't know how many of us there are, but they like that 10%. And populations don't work like that, where a group is 10% for hundreds of years. That's not the way populations don't always remain flat. Sometimes they grow. Sometimes they may diminish a little bit. Sometimes they double, but it doesn't always stay at one flat number.
And
However,
to that point, you know, this isn't our first time. We've dealt with massive immigration in this country the whole time we've been here, and no matter how long we've been here, no matter how many people that immigrate here, we're always between 10 to 13, 15%, somewhere in there. No matter how many trillions of people that they ship on over here, that has to be something that we question.
yeah, well, and again, we don't have leaders as a people. And since you spoke about immigration, there's a very fine book. In fact, I want to put a pitch. I'm going to try to resume this week the Angry Black Men's Book Club, and I'll try to do it through Twitter Space. And I'm probably going to put it up on YouTube. And I'm going to, let me see, I could just go ahead and tell people right now. Forgive me for doing this pitch, but I need as many people as possible so I can start going live. I need folks to join my YouTube channel, which is DR.RS CBUSTER. DR.RS
Can somebody put that up in a
DR.RS.
jumbotron?
That's
Thank you.
right.
Can somebody
Yeah,
can somebody in the chat room
I
put it
got
up?
you. I got
I got
you.
it. Cool.
I'm here to do
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Okay, as well, Sister Eve, I'm going to send you via, I'm going to text you some of these books so people can look at these and do their own research. I don't need you to believe anything that I'm saying, but you should take the time to do your own research. But I'm going to start doing this, talking about population, eugenics, race, all of this in the Angry Black Men's Book Club. Because, yeah, we just need to get there.
That's dope, man, Dr. Short, because we do need to get there. Oh, it looks like he was kicked out.
Where'd he go?
Something he was in the invite. I don't know. Maybe he hit the wrong button or something like that by accident. But we'll get him back in here. But yeah, for those of you listening, this is Dr. Randy Short. We're talking about our black people, men and women being race. And Dr. Short's been laying the foundation to how long this has been going on in this country and how this country has always been pointed towards erasing black people, whether that be through immigrants, through new ethnic minorities, or whatever, or through law, through putting us in jail. There's been a 360-degree approach to there's been 360-degree approach to this whole thing that we're dealing with right now. So for people out there listening, you might sit out there. There's always that one person that says, "We don't need to be thinking about this. We need to think about that." For you people out there that got a lame brain that act like black people only think of one thing at a time, understand this: we are getting attacked on all angles from all fronts. So whatever discussion people are willing to have about what we're dealing with, whether that be through economics, through entertainment, labor law, politics, or any of the 9 areas of activity, it's a discussion that needs to be had, because no matter what area you're talking, we're being attacked in that area. So when you're dealing with people who have an expertise in a particular area, if you're going to spend your time in that environment, at least lend the ear to what they're saying and see what you can do to help bring about a constructive change to what we're going through. We're not here just to complain about what's going on. We're also here to give solutions. But if you feel this particular topic isn't an issue and black people need to be worried about something else, then I invite you to create your own Twitter space somewhere else and go talk about that. You dig what I'm saying? But while we're here, we listening to Dr. Randy Short break down the erasure of black men and women. Go ahead, Dr. Short. Is he there?
I added him back, and he did send me the Delectable Negro. I'm gonna post it in the Jumbotron, and I'll post his books in the Jumbotron, so you guys should check him out on hollismedia.net, or you can check him out on Amazon. But I don't know what's up with his connection as much as I know he is sending me books to post, so maybe
That's
he's
probably what it
doing that.
is. Probably while Dr. Short, if you can hear us, maybe while you're sending those books, is messing up your connection. So when you're done sending the books, what I'm going to do is I'm going to
Yeah,
remove
I
him
just
from.
got like I just got
Yeah,
like 7 different pictures, so I will commence to posting those. He dropped back down a
yeah,
listener. Um,
yeah. All right. So
and just real quick before you go on, you were saying something about the identifying people as they are, biologically, and I just don't
yeah.
understand why they don't want to be labeled as what they are. And maybe Dr. Short, now that he's back, he can help me out with this answer. Like, to me, it just seems like rape.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This platform is limited, so it wouldn't let me speak and send. But we're gonna be discussing all kinds of stuff in the Angry Black Men's Book Club on DRS1 C Buster. But that way we can go a little further for all the Negroes who are fake and full of shit that complain about how we go through stuff. Uh, they'll have the opportunity to do their own research, do their own reading, spend some money. I mean, a book costs less than a blunt, especially if you're going to get it from a white dispensary and patronize folks who hate you with the kind of weed that makes you psychotic. You can get a book too. And so there are various books I'm going to make a reference to if it's not there. That's the whole purpose of having Angry Black Men's Book Club. But let's start this off, Brother Dwann, the way we need to do this. Because my dear sister who called me, Sister Sean, her grandmother died at 92 and had a couple of deaths here. But what she would say is to remind everyone for all of what we're going to discuss, bless people that are imparting information. My donation link is DR Randy Short. That's my Cash App. My PayPal is WRandyShort at Gmail, which is also my Zelle. DRS, I'm sorry, DR Randy Short is Cash App. W Randy Short is the Gmail, I'm sorry, is a PayPal or Zelle. So to support our research, I'm right now doing a book drive. And I'm trying to get about, I love it, on these wonderful books by a very great Black historian named Gerald Horne. And just being able to kick this information to you folks, a lot of times,
I just got my copy last night. I just got my
wasn't
copy
that
of
good book on jazz?
Gerald Horn.
Isn't that bomb? The book
Yeah.
is the bomb.
Yes, it
Yeah, the
is.
book is a bomb. I literally to even learn this stuff, I'm gonna have to spend about $300-400 to just have the books, in particular to argue with all the foreigners about our music, Dwann. and to argue. He even has a book on boxing and how black folks are dogged in boxing. Even black women were exploited in boxing. And black women being beaten to death and stuff like this, making black women fight white men, and then talk about how black women couldn't beat a white man's ass. And yet, only it took the trans for men to be able to beat women up. But black women were getting beaten up by men in boxing 100 years ago. Things like that, it costs. So to keep ahead and to see the research, since I'm not in the university where they get the books for free, I have to buy them. So bless me, because I don't hoard information. Sister Eve knows if she calls me, and if Brother Tariq calls me and says, hey, man, what? They'll tell you, yep, call Short. He probably knows. But the only way I can do that is I have to keep current for subscriptions and so forth. It's not free. So bless me, DR, Randy Short. That's Cash App. WRandyShort at Gmail is PayPal and Zelle. Now let's get back to what we were talking about. Immigration has always been used as a means to replace and get rid of black people. And not only that, if not immigration, changing categories. In fact, the greatest way to get rid of people is to alter definitions. My mentor, a man by the name of Dr. Yusef Kly, YUSSUFKLY, Dr. Yusef Kly. I don't have a copy of that book in front of me. His book, Legacy of Evil Landing, The Antisocial Contract. He wrote the foreword to the book Black Untouchable. Sister Eve, please put that name in for me, Dr. Yusef Kly. You can find him. In fact, the publishing house that has his books is called Clarity, CLARITY Press. Clarity Press. Dr. Yusef Kly, who was Malcolm X's number one man for the Organization of African American Unity in Canada, was my mentor, Dr. Yusef Kly. And he's a very, someone that you should know, one of the first people that was trying to warn black folks about being erased, destroyed. The term that's often used in international law is called African Americanization, where people are culturally destroyed slowly. The term is African Americanization. Imagine that people in Europe see us as a group being destroyed. In fact, another term is ethnocide. Ethnos, people, side, kill. Or another way to say destruction of a people is forced assimilation, which is what we are under. It is not integration. Canada has integration. America has forced assimilation. Why do I say that? Because in Canada, if you speak French, you don't have to speak English unless you want to. So everything in Canada has French and English because the dominant white group, which is English, is forced to respect the minority white group, the Québécois or the Québécois, however you want to say them, who are primarily in the city of Montreal and in the province of Quebec, are respected. You cannot complete your education in Canada without learning about the history of the Québécois as an integral group in Canada. It's not like in America where a white person can have 10 PhDs and never heard of Martin Luther King. That's in a society where you're destroying people, where education can systematically ignore all the contributions and things done by one group and only talk about another. So the fact that some of the people, even some of you listening to what I'm saying that don't know what I'm talking about, you are the victims of ethnocide and forced assimilation, you're being erased psychologically, mentally, and spiritually by how the society is run. And ethnocide and forced assimilation has happened for hundreds of years. We have been sold a bill of goods that what we're under is integration or even token integration. We have none of that. Again, in Canada, if you don't know how to speak French, you're ass out. Even if you're rich and you're English speaking, you're expected to know something about the other group of white people, or you're a loser. In Canada, the Quebecois are somewhere between 10 to 20% of the population of Canada, never more than that. However, if you do any research, I challenge you to go to Canada right now in Wikipedia and look at how often the president and the prime minister of Canada are Quebecois, or they have French names, even though they're the minority, because you cannot make it in politics on a national level in Canada without having to deal with the French-speaking people in Canada, even though they're the minority. See, we live under a thing that is basically majoritarian democracy, meaning that the democracy functions for the majority against minority populations, which is why they do not offer us
I don't know if
tangibles.
y'all can
That
hear
is,
me, but I cannot hear anything. I'm going
God
to try to
damn.
leave out and come back in.
Dwan, you can't hear?
No, I just heard you. Dr. Short, can you say something?
Dr. Short has been cooking. If you leave the space will end.
Shit. All right. I'm gonna log into space on my computer so I can stay in it and then come back.
Okay. Before you do that, can someone in the audience throw me a peace sign that you've been hearing Dr. Short the whole time he's been cooking and it's not just me? Vernon, have we been in the Matrix the whole time? Okay. Thank you, T Dynamite. All right. They can hear us. So yeah, if you can come in on your
Let me log
computer
into my
so he can
computer
keep.
and then come back. All right.
All right. Cool. Appreciate you. Appreciate the room. Thank you so much. Dr. Short, I don't know if you
Okay.
want to wait for him to get to his computer. I
No,
don't
go
want
ahead.
anything.
Go ahead.
So
Okay.
I'm trying to lay this down because I'm going to move back and forth for all the people that whine and complain on the Dwan B instance and ashtrays. If we're going to talk serious and not joke, then I'm going to have to put concepts and theories and facts down. So when we get to this later, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. So let me go all the way back and say my hat off to the FBA. God bless the FBA. God bless the B1s. God bless the real, genuine people in ADOS. God bless the folks who are for tangibles. God bless the freedmen. God bless the ancestors. God bless everybody that's trying to save our people from genocide. Genocide has always been the option of a majority. Always been. And genocidal policies have always been in implementation since the foundation of the British invasion of Turtle Island, in particular British North America. Let's just start there. Erasure has always been the preferred mode of white expansion in America. It has never left that. It goes through stages. The goalpost may be in one place in one century or one generation, but it is always oriented towards getting rid of, in particular, the original inhabitants of the land. And there are many rationalizations for why people are to be gotten rid of. Either they're not Christian or they're not this or they're not that. We, as a people have been subject to double erasure.
Why?
Double erasure because there are and have always been people throughout the entire world who fit under this new outlier, invented group called Black, who lived globally. There is nowhere in the world where you do not have Black, or what you call Black people. You have Black people in the Arctic called the Laplanders in Finland, Norway, Sweden, and parts of Russia. Laplanders, the people with the reindeers. Look at their faces. They have the same face of Black folks, different sort of nose, different sort of lips. Have you ever noticed sometimes you meet white folks from Norway and Sweden? They have full lips, big noses. They don't look like the white folks from England or other places, because there's always been, and the first human beings are white, are not white people, but are what you would call today Black people. But Black isn't really a good term. Black is a status, and it's real messy to explain it, but let's do it like this. Black as a concept coincides with this project to erase people. And it's very psychological. White is good, Black is bad, and it's like a chessboard. If you ever look, it's white and black. It's a lighter color and a darker color. And in order to psychologically arrange people into groups and categories, you just made one group white, one group Black. And in America, we know that whatever's called Black ranges in colors from white to blue-black, like Wesley Snipes. So Black ain't really Black. Black is a status, a group to be exploited, to be mistreated. And does this exist in other places? Do we have caste systems in other places? You have it in the Middle East. You have it in India. You have it in the Pacific. You have it everywhere. What I'm trying to say to you is that there were people that you would class as Black people when the Europeans came here. Brother Dwan has put me in touch with Dr. Wender, and they can show that the very first people here in the Americas, and you see evidence of this throughout the North America and South America, of the Olmec heads in Mesoamerica, the fact that the DNA of the very first people that were in South America were from Africa. And frankly, I'm a living example of a person who's descendant of people who were Black in what's called America right now. And many of us are. And many of us have been so brainwashed. You look at someone like Johnny Mathis, who's classified as Black when he's a Comanche Indian, and you say, God, his hair is kind of different, his face is kind of different. But in America, if you're not white, you're Black. But if you were to put Johnny Mathis in Africa, maybe he could fit in South Africa, where you've had people from Malaysia and other places mix, and he could be a colored, or maybe he could be a Tuareg sort of, but he wouldn't be seen as your Bantu or Kushite or Twa African, because he doesn't look like them. And I can go on and on of people who would be anything but Black everywhere else in the world, but here where they've created this category to be enslaved and eliminated and exterminated, or forcibly homogenized into white people. And so these strategies of what you do when, say, less than a few hundred white folks show up in Jamestown, and less than a few hundred white folks show up in Massachusetts Bay Colony, and you're surrounded by these people. And so these strategies of what you do when... So, are y'all hearing me? Because my mic just did something strange.
We can hear you. I don't know what that was. I did hear that too, but
Well,
I think that
let me
together.
just say this so people understand. I was on the phone, and Sister Jade, I have very good news. We're going to take down
I think that was
somebody.
me. I'm trying to come back in.
Let me just say this so people understand. It messes with our mic, Dwann. I don't know what it is, but it messes with our mic. Hello? Help me out here. Did I get put out now? Okay. Can you hear me, Sister Eve?
Yep, I can hear you. I can hear everybody.
Okay. Let me just say this, y'all. The intelligence community, the CIA, and all these people run all these social media platforms. They're not free. It's not like.
Okay, so they're just being really janky today, and I think that that's probably normal. Dwannn, are you still with us?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Dr. Short's gone. He got kicked out.
Can you see if you can invite him back?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So y'all can't hear me now? Everyone else hit. I don't know what the hell going on, but invite him back. Press if everyone else in the chat room can hear me, put up some emoji. Put up a middle finger or some shit.
They
Let me
can
know.
hear you. They can hear
All
you.
right, cool. Yeah. So yeah, see if you can invite Dr. Short back. I think we'll have everything all settled out then. Because I was hearing you on my phone and him on my computer, and then now I hear everyone else clear. So, but we'll get him back in here. Because they like doing bootleg shit here on Twitter. Anyway, Dr. Short was cooking as far as talking about the different people and the different how we look across the globe. And Eve, I got your inbox. I will reach out to Dr. Clyde Winters and see if I can convince him to come in a Twitter space because I think that we can use Dr. Clyde Winters' information firsthand. Because Dr. Clyde Winters is such. For those of you who don't know who Dr. Clyde Winters is, he's written over 34 books. He's a retired college professor, and he's written a lot of books that have expounded upon They Came Before Columbus. As a matter of fact, he did a lot of the work with Ivan Van Sertima on that book. And he, at one point back in the 70s, he used to work alongside Runoko Rashidi and under the guidance of I won't say under, but he knew Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, and he's since taken a lot of Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's work and taken it to just really expounded upon that. So a lot of your physical evidence, um, of our presence here, and he goes further than just the presence in North America. He talks about the kingdoms, the rulership classes. He talks about all. He go all the way in, all the way deep.
Dwannn, you gotta say it. He talks about B1. Like,
Yes,
we've been first. Like, and he's very. Look, y'all, I heard this man say, I am not one of them old niggas. I heard him say that live on air. And ever since then, it's been a wrap. Y'all should definitely know who that man is. He's speaking of clout, right? He's not one for clout. You might not know him because he was so worried about making sure that the information was out there, that people that he was working with, people that Dwannn may or may not have just listed, that may or may not still be on this plane, might have been more interested in putting their name on things versus getting the information correct. So
I was trying not to go there, but yeah. When it comes Eve, yeah, Eve is right though, because names I may or may not have mentioned. They have, according to Dr. Winters and the many times I've heard him speak, they because for certain things and getting the information out, it was certain truths that they left out, and Dr. Clyde Winters and his information puts all that stuff in there, and I have a signed copy of one of his books.
still jealous. I'm still so jealous.
That's the goat right there. So yeah, they that's someone that we need to get on here. And I remember, like you said, he doesn't really do Twitter Spaces like that. He's on YouTube. But he does interviews. But we'll see if we can get him in Twitter Space so we can bring a lot of clarity. and a lot of firsthand sources to when we're talking about our FBA, B1, freedman ancestry here in the United States of America. And he uses those terms too. He's not afraid to use those terms, black first, and to use the term FBA or freedman or DR.RS. He's not afraid to use any of that stuff. You know, a lot of these cats, they be soft shoe cooning around these type topics. He's not one of them. But I sent.
They'd invite Dr. Short back to the space. Maybe he got a call, or maybe he's restarting his phone.
Yeah, maybe he got a call. Because I did send him a text um about the link. I'm telling him it's working fine now. Working. And so hopefully we can get him back in here pretty soon. Because I want to get back, because he was in the middle of something, and I don't want to get started on what I can get cooking on, then he come right back, because I really want him to finish what he was saying. But you know how these Twitter spaces work. When you drop a real information and when you drop in game, this is the kind of stuff that happens. And the people in here, y'all used to this shit. You dig? Y'all know. But actually, in the meantime, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open it up to y'all. While Dr. Short, I want to hear what some of y'all have to say as far as in response to some things Dr. Short has dropped so far. If anyone has anything to say, hit the invite, hit the speak button. I'll let you get up and speak. Keep your comments brief, and then I want to hear what y'all got to say. Then when Dr. Short comes back, we'll make sure.
While I'm inviting people up, if you could, I looked for the YouTube channel that he said, DRS1CBUSTER. I could not find that YouTube channel. So if you could help us out, get me that link, or we can post it for him.
I'll look for it. So yeah, you know who's next. So whoever Eve says is next, go ahead and speak.
Peace Snake, and then Life's a B, and then BW.
Sound like he sound like he at the water park.
Life's a B. You want to go ahead? Yeah, can you hear me clearly? Honestly, you sound a little muffled, kind of far away. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I just really pretty much appreciate. Can you hear me?
That was real muffled.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I hear you now
That's
clearly.
much better. There you go.
So, yeah, I appreciate you guys having Dr. Short on. I'm taking notes while he's speaking. And my question is, because I like when he pointed out that LGBTQ is a psyop and we are the target of it. My thing is, why can't that community create their own lane? For instance, if they're only hiring, like gay men or trans men at certain companies, can straight men sue? Or can they just create a lane, these employers create a lane and say, we're still going to hire straight people, and then we're going to hire the rainbow community or what have you? Why does it have to be, why do we have to be targeted as far as straight people? Do you kind of understand my question?
Oh yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. It's because they don't have a justified discussion, because at the end of the day, they were gay slave owners. They're gay people that control industry to this day. They're a protected class. So they don't have anything that they can say that they were held out of when it comes to anything historically in America. They weren't they didn't get taxed extra. You know what I mean? And they may have gotten hazed. They may have gotten screwed with in certain ways on a social level. But as far as economically and in the tangible areas where it matters, they've never been left out of anything. So in order to have some sort of legitimacy to your movement, you have to attach yourself to what is legitimate. It's like a parasite. And so because we do have oh man, excuse me, I'm over here stuttering like a motherfucker. I'll be laughing right now if I was listening to me. But back to what I was saying. In order to have a legitimate gripe, you have to make sure that you attach yourself to those who do have that legitimate gripe. And so that's what they're doing. They understand how to use our momentum, our energy, and our passion for something that's going to ultimately work for them. Because at the end of the day, the LGBTQ community, they're still white and white supremacists. The same way these same groups of people who make these decisions said, okay, being a white woman is just as bad as being a black person, and they got to double their income with putting white women in as minority status. They literally have to use us to have any level of credibility.
Okay, Dwan, just a quick follow-up. So how do we counter that? Like as straight people, straight black men, straight black women, is it just always have to, going to be like a legal means?
We have to stand up to it because usually they come around and what we do in response is we accept it. We when they come around with their agendas, traditionally black people will turn around and say, "Oh yeah, you struggle too. Come along. We're so welcoming. We're so inviting." And so it's almost like we sign a contract and we sign these deals with the devil and keep wondering why we end up in hell. So what we have to do, the part of it that we control, is when they come with us and they come around us and say, "Hey, we're the same." Us using, because we all have the power of fiat. We all have the power to call. If you're a Christian, they say call those things that be not as though they were. If you study rhetoric like I do, they call it using the power of fiat. That's basically using the power to create what you say it is. Everyone has it. It's just as black people, we've been under domination for so long. We believe when they say something is true. They can be the biggest crock of shit on earth. We traditionally don't fight back. But we have that power too. We have that power to call things as though they are too. So when they come around us with that, we do have the power to fight back with our rhetoric. Rhetoric is power. Rhetoric is also the first form of warfare. Warfare always starts with rhetoric. It don't get to everything else until later down the line. So when they come around us with the nonsense, we have to stand up to it. We have when the women that are out there saying, "Hey, though my gay friends over here, we all, that I don't want to be around those men," and they huddle up with the gay dudes. Got to stop that stuff. We got to understand that we are a black male, woman, and child. You can be gay. We ain't tripping on that. But if you put gay first and you try to attach that agenda to anything we do, we have to fight back, fight back, fight back. And if we do that, they won't have because they're not powerful. They can only ride our back if we bend over. We have to just make sure that we stand up and stand up to what they're doing. And that's what we're doing right now. And as you're seeing with you see what the Democrats are going through right now, these cats are struggling because black people for the first time in a long time are saying no. And so we're seeing with our eyes right in front of us the result of standing up and using our words and fighting back. All we got to do is keep doing it and get louder.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks, Eve, also.
No problem. Whoever's next.
Much respect to you, Life to Be. Did you want me to keep people on the stage or move them down, or
you can move down because when Dr. Short comes back, we're gonna let him cook again when he comes back.
Got you. It's on BW and then Aaliyah the nurse.
Oh, hey, good evening, everybody. The previous speaker, he was speaking on point because that's exactly what I was going to say about our people. I believe our black men are being, they're trying to erase us because we continue to be on this loving, hugging mentality, feeling sorry for other people except for ourselves. Some of us don't put ourselves first. And a lot of these people who's religious, they believe in forgiving everybody. How could you constantly forgive people who don't care about you? And you get these pastors who don't care about you either. They get in positions and they leave their people behind. And we are the main people that support them. I think our problem is back to that again. We loving everybody. And we feed off into this nonsense these white people put in our mind and our soul and believe what these people are saying. They continue to push their agenda on us and we fall for it. We fall for this black women hating black men mentality. That never been like that before. Because these white people put this stuff in our mind, we begin be divisive towards one another. They continue to push their sick agenda on us and we fall for it. We need to stop falling for this nonsense, come together and support each other and fight these white people and anybody who's doing harm to us, because that's the only way we're going to survive it. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you for that. And that's really it. Speaking back, why do you think we ever ask ourselves, why is it anytime something happens to a black person, why is it the first thing they do is ask that black person, "Do you forgive?" That's not done in a vacuum. That's not done just to be to make us they don't give a damn about forgiveness. That's their temperature check. They want to make sure that it's okay. It's important that we forgive because that it's like when you're in a relationship with somebody and you cheat, you doing them dirty. You know you doing them dirty. So you always doing a temperature check to make sure and see if and do they can I wonder if they can tell like where I was last night. You know, hey, how you doing, baby? You know, what you do last night? You know what I mean? You know, a little temperature check you do when you know you're doing somebody wrong. That's what it is with them and the whole forgiveness thing and the whole black people. Hey, it's time to vote. That's the temperature check. And why do they need to check our temperature? Because they know they can only get away with what they're doing with our compliance. It can only last with our compliance. The biggest thing that countries are afraid of is internal destabilization. The biggest thing that messes the reason why we're going to get our reparations is the last thing a country needs is a mass a majority, especially an influential majority as black people are, angry at the country. What that does is it makes them susceptible to outside threats. It makes them susceptible to trade sanctions. It makes them susceptible to basically the bullying tactics that they put onto other countries. So, in order to minimize that, they will respond and do whatever it needs to take to keep stability at home. And so, I said all that to say when we fight back, when we don't comply, they know that they're going to have to come up off something, but they can only do what they do when we comply. So the more we speak out, we ain't got to riot, we ain't got to burn nothing down. And nobody better not ever come up in this chat room talking about shooting somebody. I kick your ass out of here so fast. We don't need them niggas around either. It's always gonna be some dude. Whenever it's a group of black people talking about this, it's gonna be that one black person that come around. Yeah, what we gotta do is, man, we gotta shoot these white motherfuckers, and none of that bullshit. If you, matter of fact, if you was about that life, you wouldn't even be telling me. So we need to get them niggas about the mix too. They get everybody in trouble. You know what I
I'm
mean?
saying that's
So
how real G's moved in silence. But
exactly. To get them niggas up all the way out the mix that's coming around talking about what they gonna do and what we need to do is and all that nonsense. So what we need to do is just what we're doing right now and keep showing that, hey, if you're not giving us any tangibles, we're gonna sit this election out. You gotta withdraw. Withdrawing from the system is a very powerful tool. So it's like for those of you watching football right now, that's like when you run a play action pass. You wonder what's going on, what's happening, what these people doing, And if you feel you need to vote, then whatever. But what I'm saying is this: when you withdraw, and then when you withdraw from the voting process but stay politically active, that puts them in a position to where things have to change because it's not like we're just leaving the thing altogether. We're still being politically active. We still on your ass when you say something racist. We still demanding these our tangibles. But without that, we're not going to give you what you want. As long as we stay on this path and keep doing it, after a few more election cycles, we'll be fine. But who's next to speak?
That would be Aaliyah. But before she goes, real quick, I was sitting in a space with the reparationist. I can't think of what her Twitter handle is. I think it's the reparationist, something like that. But I don't know. Is a tangible closed borders? Is that a tangible for Black people? Because I'm thinking the way that DC just voted 12-1 to let people who are not citizens, not supposed to be here, vote. I don't know. That seems like a tangible that I would vote for if it were on the ballot in my state. But
I wouldn't call it it's because it's nothing that we can hold and pass down, but it is close to a tangible as you can get because think about this country will cut his nose to spite his face. You know what I mean? This if we think about it, we have a super economy now. What if the borders are being closed and the jobs that are available are passed down to the Black people with all of the invention and innovation that we bring? Nobody innovates like a Black American. You know what I mean? What if our music was allowed to continue to grow after 1979? Most Black people don't even understand the fact that our music has been purposely dumbed down systematically since 1980, and what we hear now is an intended dumbing down of our sound. What if we're allowed to continue to glow and grow with our sound? with music being America's #1 export? What if education was passed down to black children instead of NBA hopes and dreams? And we done already invented the damn car assembly line and gas mask, elevator, and all that shit. Black kids would have probably invented floating cities by now had we passed that shit down. But this country has a major issue with that, and so they'll cut themselves economically. They'll hurt themselves by bringing all these people in just to control us. So with closed borders being something that's out there, with this country always been ready and willing and always open to bringing in whoever from wherever to keep us controlled. If they're going to close the borders, imagine what we could do if we had 2 generations of black people that were able to live in America without being displaced by tens of millions of people every year. So I don't know. I wouldn't be against voting for that at all.
I'm just playing devil's advocate because I'm definitely no tangibles, no vote. And you're right, because, closed borders is not something I can take to the bank or pay my bills with. But I am just a little jaded. Aaliyah the nurse, peace to you. I'm sorry for making you wait.
Peace to me. Peace to you too, sister. Thank you so much for having me. Okay, so I wanted to address the topic, but I also wanted to say I've been a registered nurse for 25 years, and my first job when I was 17, when you're in college, I started out at Health and Human Services, and so just being Black in America, a Native American, what I noticed that all of the programs that all of the erasure programs, Ethnocide programs, eugenics programs, genocide, terrorization are all funded by Health and Human Services. And we can class action sue them. I have filed numerous lawsuits. I won about 90%. But we can really take some action. And if you go to Health and Human Services, all they have done is turn Hitler's, Rockefellers, and the Bush CIA paperclip and turned it into human services and family services for Black people. So when we say Black and white, of course, we know that's not a real definition of us, but underneath Health and Human Services, Black are the Jewish and white are the Nazis. And if you evaluate all of their programs that they have, you could go to the site right now. The NIH, the CDC, HHS is the parent company of all of these organizations that dominate our life, housing, gentrification. They have a church, FBI, the faith-based initiative. They manage everything. So if we could stop, can you guys hear me? Put a thumb up, because it seemed like I may have got kicked out.
You were glitching a little bit, but I see the stuff that you tweeted in the thread. Can you throw that stuff in the Jumbotron? The stuff that you tweeted in the thread?
Right. So in 2012, I had filed a $999 trillion reparation lawsuit because I noticed that all of their programs on our children in CPS and healthcare are all mimicked after Project Paperclip, MK Ultra Project Paperclip. The lawsuit was Holland versus Morgenstern, $999 trillion for reparation 2012. And right, so I've been on this and I've been connecting the dots for a very long time. If it's anything that can cure us, they will have a Harvard study coming out saying it's bad for us. They did that recently during the era that we just went through. I don't want to get the channel blocked or whatever, but any medication that could cure us, they blocked it intentionally. And then when you research even more, because I won a couple of $1 million from HHS before, and when you research a little bit more, you notice the King Alfred plan comes up, Rex 84, which is on Kissinger, and Kissinger transferred all of his programs to Jeffrey Epstein and Gates. And they have hospitals named after them. The back financer for Epstein was Lex Wesner. He has a hospital in Ohio. That's where they're doing all these gender studies. The Kinsey program was a sadomasochistic program where you could split the child personality and you could split their sexuality. And that's what I sued for in family court, because I have 5 children and one of my sons they had stole. And they had stole him for 5 years from me for no reason. His father, I didn't want to be with his father. So they make the father the handlers. They make the they have this fatherhood.gov program where if you are raping your children, incesting on your children, using them for child porn, they are making the father the handler and making the mother look like a bad guy. So 1 out of my 5 children was stolen. And that's when I filed the lawsuit, because all of the programs were 100% identical. And then I could put in a jumbotron. I got a letter from Jeffrey Epstein because I was running a foundation. This was before they stole my son. I was running Hill Network in New York, and they had was soliciting me. They offered me $10 million to be down with them, to make the Jeffrey Epstein hedge fund a part of my organization. But, when we looked into him, I'm like, I'm not connecting with no pedophiles. And they offered me $10 million. I had people at the meetings and everything with me. And I was doing NBA programs with Gordon Malone from the Timberwolves. He was my head coach, and they wanted to connect with me and do programs with me. And when I researched and found, I'm going to put the Jeffrey Epstein doc in the Jumbotron. When I researched it, I was like, but he ran a lot of charities. He was connected to most of the charities, the big charities in New York, Safe Horizons, all of the big charities. I don't know about other places. But
I
anyway,
want to recognize
HHS is erasure, is who we
I'm
need to
sorry,
target.
you.
Aaliyah.
Yes.
I'm using
I'm
his name.
sorry.
You know what they do when that name come up. You know how they get down. So, but yeah, thank you for that, because we understand. But like, for the information, put it up in a jumbotron so we can see what it is. It's just that I'm gonna upload this to YouTube later, and they be scanning for certain names and stuff like that, and so you know how they get down.
Right. I'm not going to mention that again, but that's
I get
Health and
exactly
Human
what.
Services is who is erasing.
All right, I don't know what happened. Um,
Oh, okay. No, I said they pay for Roland Martin's show. He get all his funding come from Health and Human Services. All the
so
media.
what we're gonna
They.
do? We'll make sure that we look up for the Health and Human Services.
hmm
That's
And when you connect those dots, your mind's going to explode,
Thank you for
because
that.
under the guise of Health and Human Services, they're exterminating us.
I
Thank
appreciate.
you.
I needed that. Thank you for that, for pointing me in that direction. I want to get back to BW. I see you had your hand up again. Yeah, you had something you want to say.
Oh yeah, that's why I come on these spaces, because people share a lot of information that you don't know. So that lady that just spoke, she gave some good knowledge. But it's a space that's on now with the Haitians. They're doing a pull up for their group, but you can't really figure out what it's about because they speak it in their language. And these are the people who talk about we don't have no culture, but they following us in everything we do. They scoping out everything we do and follow us, probably trying to undermine us. And also today I had seen on YouTube where Kahim, I think that's his name, he spit a lot of facts, and I'm really proud of the brother. And that's the first time I have seen on YouTube where women was sort of like listening to him, that seemed like they was proud of him speaking, and they were just like amazed because he spoke facts. And it just made me feel proud that our people are finally coming together. And I just want to say that because I felt I was just proud of what he did on that station. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you for that. And we are starting to come together as a people. We are starting to really, and a lot of Black people, we're using these Twitter spaces constructively. And I like that about what's going on in this movement, because we could be in these Twitter spaces talking about anything. And the fact that we're here talking about from across the country what's going on. I'm reporting observations from LA that Dr. Randy Short is seeing in DC, that you're seeing in Chicago, Atlanta, Detroit, DC, or wherever you live. You're seeing the same thing. And what I always say, the nonsense can only exist in an environment with our compliance. They have to get us to comply. That's why they must make us apologize. That's why they're always doing these temperature checks on us and to see how we feeling, because they know they can only stand on our backs as long as we're bent over. The minute we stand up, the party's over. And so that's what we're doing together in these spaces. We're speaking constructively. We're not talking about harming anyone. We're not talking about hurting anyone. We don't want to see nobody die. We want to see everybody have a good, prosperous life. If you're LGBTQ, if you're white, whatever you are, we want to see you prosper. But we just want to see you prosper on your own. Get the fuck off our backs. Your prosperity can't come at the expense of us. That's all we saying. You can prosper all damn day. Run and run long. But you ain't running on my back. Anybody else want to speak? Hit the invite if you want to speak, because that's what we talk about here. Are black men and women being erased? I want to get Dr. Short back in here, but I think he's having some serious phone issues that supersede Twitter. So that's what's going on right now. And so, but in the meantime, I do want to make it a discussion. I got a little bit longer. It's not gonna be an all day room. I got some other stuff to do, but I want to give Dr. Short a little bit more time before I close the room down to get back on here. So we'll see what's happening with him shuffling around with his phone. Jesse, did you have something you want to say?
Well, I definitely feel like we're being erased. We're being erased with people who look like us. And I saw a picture, I think Tariq posted it. It was Jesse Lee Peterson. He had the biggest coon train I've ever seen. It was gold plated. And he's just so happy. So I don't know if that was like a Photoshop picture or if somebody really sent that guy a 24 karat, 3-foot coon train. But and he's not even a tether. He's a homegrown coon. So I don't know. I feel like we're in a bad version of Get Out.
He is a homegrown coon, and what we're dealing with right now. See, the thing is, like Tariq says, we've always called our coons out and identified them for who they are. Larry Elder has never held any weight in the black community. There's nothing he's ever been able to say to ever influence black people to do anything, because we were calling him out back in 1994 when he was here in LA on the AM talk shows. You know what I mean? So, when it comes to other societies, they tend to see their coons and just say, "Oh, they're just crazy." I have an African homeboy that I was talking to about one of his friends, and he that's a coon. He was like, "Ah, man, he's just crazy. He's just crazy." Man, I'm telling y'all right now, y'all can't trust niggas who roll their R's. When you're dealing with these cultures that roll their R's, they don't fuck with you. Whenever you're dealing with some Latinos, they be like, "My name is Ramona Rosales. You better run, nigga. She ain't got nothing but good. She ain't got no good intentions for your ass. If she could just call herself Ramona Rosales. If she had to say Ramona Rosales, that means she's about to report your ass if you come into work 34 seconds late. Guaranteed goddamn T. So that's some shit you just gotta watch out for as a black person. If you talking to a black person, you think they FBA, but one of them rolled R's come out, watch out, nigga. They got a whole nother network that they don't that they cool with, that don't fuck with you. And so, as black people, and that's another thing I want to say. As a black person born and raised in LA, we hear a lot of things that you guys are dealing with down south and on the East Coast with a lot of this mass immigration and stuff like that. We about 40 years into it with the Mexicans. I know New York, you guys have more of the Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. In LA, we have more of the South Pacific and the Mexicans. And we had the RN speak earlier about, we're talking about erasure right now. I remember in LA in the 90s, all of the nurse jobs, all the RN jobs, all the LVN jobs, those were all black women. Now, them black women was hood in the motherfucker. You know what I mean? You was gonna get some pink hair, some long nails, and some gum smacking, but she was gonna do you right. She was gonna hit that blood vein the first time, every time right. You know what I mean?
The first time, every time. Say that again, because man, it's a nightmare, and I think they get off on it.
Yeah, with us, she may smell like a blunt and Tanqueray, but she's gonna hit that vein the right time, the first time, the right time, every time, and she's gonna be good at what she do. You know, it's always been the black women who were the receptionists who ran the office, and offices still ain't getting run right without a black woman running it. You know what I mean? That's what you saw in the 90s and the 2000s. But like now, in the last 10, 15 years, all the LVNs look like Manny Pacquiao. And like they are, it's a whole bunch of Bruno Marses running around the hospital, and they going around and they got all the jobs, and you running around looking like, okay, all right, okay, cool. My nurses used to look like regular ass black people, and you know what I mean. Now they can barely speak the language, and so we've seen what I've seen here in LA is the erasure of black women from black people overall from the medical industry. My doctor, Dr. Lawrence Robinson, he's retired now, but he was one of the best immunologists in the country. He was rated by the American Medical Journal like the third best immunologist in the country. The other two guys were white. So what that really means was he is the best immunologist in the country, but they weren't gonna put a nigga first. Well, anyway, he operated out of King Drew Medical Center in Watts, California. And if you had asthma, if you had bad allergies or anything like that, ear, nose, and throat, you come to Dr. Robinson, your shit was gonna get solved. He wasn't gonna have you dealing with them issues long term. He was gonna fix it. What they did with him when they were getting ready to close the Martin Luther King Hospital, it was almost like they couldn't close that hospital because you had Dr. Robinson there, and you had two other black doctors. One was over the trauma unit, and this I forgot the other two guys' names, but they were some of the best doctors in the world at what they did. And yes, Killer King had that reputation, and you would die over there over a little scratch, like Ice Cube said on the Death Certificate album. Yes, that would happen. But for certain specialties, you had the best doctors in the world. So what they did was they fired each one of those doctors within 2 years in the years leading up to them closing the hospital down. And Dr. Robinson, they fired him because they said he was leaving work but still on the clock. Like, come on now. What? All doctors be on the clock and then be on the golf course. But he wasn't even on the golf course. He would just leave a little bit early, and they fired him from that. And then once they fired Dr. Robinson, they closed down King Drew Medical Center because now you no longer have any of the top 3 world-renowned doctors living there. What I saw when the King Drew Medical Center reopened was it was once a place where you had great doctors, great black doctors, in spite of its reputation in different specialties. You have the class of the field, the class of the world doctors. Now, when you go back there, they're either African or they're something else, but they ain't us since the hospitals reopened. For the LVNs, the nurses, they used to all be Black American. They used to all be Keishas from around the ways. Now they're Ramona Rosales or some damn uh, Maria Pacquiao or whatever. That's all the staff now. And so
Not all the staff, Dwan. I'm not even going to hold you. We are still there. We are in the kitchen and we are cleaning up the messes.
No,
In
the
masses.
mess out here, the Mexicans are doing that.
Seriously? We don't even get that?
No, they took the black people out the kitchen in the 90s, yo. The black people left the kitchen in LA back in the 90s, man.
That's horrible. Here, we're still in the kitchen and we're still the janitors at the hospital. But you're right. The nursing staff, the doctors, the specialized people who have degrees, they might look like us, but they don't. They're not us. And it was a lot of Guptas and such.
Azabukis and Guptas, and yeah, all that. And so, you know, and same thing with the police department out here. The LA County Sheriff Department, the LAPD, that's just 80% Mexican. They ain't even got white boys patrolling the streets like that anymore. If you see a police officer, 8 out of 10 times, whether it be LAPD, LA County Sheriff, they're going to be Mexican. And the Mexicans, the one thing about the Mexicans be hard, like they got their own little intercultural issues going on, so they be jamming each other up like crazy too. But they love jamming us up too. And they got all these little internal gangs. And one of my best friends is a LA County Sheriff, and he's from India, but he looked Mexican, but he's someone who grew up around black people, and when he came to America, and he's still super loyal to us. He tells me everything, and I remember when he first became a cop, he was like, I didn't know you. He told me, he's like, you used to always tell me how racist America is. I really see it now that I become a cop. because in there he said all they do is talk about how much they're gonna fuck up a black person today. They get around and they talk about how they take score on how many black people that they can rack up and arrest and violate rights. And this some shit he told me back in the early 2000s, and it's worse now because back then it was like 50% Latino cops, 40%. Now it's like 85% Latino cops, so it's even worse right now. Those motherfuckers is like they got these other groups, all those areas that black DMV jobs, the clerk at the courthouse, all them jobs where you used to seeing black people, it's now either an Asian or a Mexican. So be aware of that. If they let one of them motherfuckers in as a boss, as a hiring manager in your city, your black ass is done. So
And
be
then
aware of that.
the black people who get in positions of power, and then we do have a speaker who came up, so I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh,
But
yeah. Let go. After you talk, I'm gonna shut up.
the black people in positions of power, they don't even want to give their friends a job because they're on some, well, now I've got a position of power, so I can't really help you out. I'm gonna help other people out. But as soon as Rosita Ramingo or whatever you just said, as soon as she gets the job, in comes 15 of them, and they don't even bat an eye. We gotta get on that. How do we get on that?
And one more thing you said that, I'm gonna let you speak, speaker. It's I want to say this one point because it's happening in Hollywood too. There was there's a video, I gotta go back and find it, where you see like Yvonne Orji and all these different Nigerian actors, where they're basically talking about, hey, we pass the jobs around within us. We don't, this is an African on African thing. They're doing that in here in Hollywood right now, and it's been happening right in front of us as we speak. And it's like, and it's crazy too because it's like on that show Insecure. A lot of my friends, I've had friends that wrote for that show and got on that show. Issa Rae, I will say, I have personal friends where she's giving looks to, but that's nothing that can ever buy me off because the Black Americans, they write the best stuff, the best materials, but when it comes to being on the screen, they get to play the side jobs, the side role, the every now and again reoccurring role. Your regulars, your people who get the primary positions in her world, in those other people's world, they're non-Black American. They may not even be Nigerian. They may be a non-Black American from the Caribbean. But it's like these motherfuckers who aren't from Black foundational Black Americans, long before the term FBA even became a thing, they was doing this shit 10 years ago. So long before FBA became a thing, this has been what they've been doing. And all them, David Oyelowo, all them motherfuckers come from African backgrounds with money. They don't come from poor backgrounds, and they all get together and they do what they can do to box us out. So if you're somewhere else, we got to be hostile to these people. And I don't mean beating them up, but we can't make them comfortable around us anymore. Like these people don't feel comfortable around me. And I'm gonna say, and I ain't gonna call you African booty scratcher either. It's gonna be something far different that stings a lot lower. These people cannot be, and I'm not saying go around being mean to them. Be nice and be accepting, be open, be cool. Because one of my best, like I won't say best friends, but one of my day ones in comedy is my man Chinadu. He's Yvette Orji's main writer. Matter of fact, anything funny that she says, I can guarantee you Chinadu wrote it. But that's my guy. I still love that dude. But when it comes to them talking about when that culture talk comes up, all right, let's go. When they want to talk about, okay, yeah, what are my culture? All right, yeah, nigga, what's your culture? All right, cool. Now that you finished talking about those little tink cool, yeah, Joe Love cool, all right. Now let me tell you how what we do, and then that's when them motherfuckers. That's the point to where you start to really see them get hella nervous and they whole tone change. They got to get to that point around us. They can't be comfortable to just be talking the way they've been talking the last 30, 40 years. But I've been talking a whole goddamn lot. Go ahead, the internet. Oh shit!
I'm not trying to be funny, but I think he dropped down, and I don't know where he went now. But I guess while he's thinking about if he wants to come back up, a lot of Black people didn't know Idris wasn't from here.
Yeah, we didn't know that at first.
And that was a really good one, because he really played the role.
Yeah, we didn't know he wasn't from here. We didn't know that 12 Years a Slave dude wasn't from here. What's his name? Because I always thought he looked like Miguel Nunez, the dude that played 12 Years a Slave, but he ain't from here. We didn't know what's her name was from Jamaica that just won that Emmy. We didn't know, but look at how welcoming we are. Sidney Poitier, when Sidney Poitier came to America, and he got nestled within Black American culture, and he didn't divide himself and differentiate himself. Look at the love we gave him. See, we thought when we got these foreigners to come over, we thought we were getting some Sidney Poitiers. We thought we were getting, people like that. At the end of the day, we ended up getting what we got, and it ain't what we thought we was getting. We dealing with a whole different class of immigrants now than that existed at the time of Sidney Poitier. And these people hide amongst our culture, and that's one thing I was saying. I'm getting to you, BW, to make something very clear. And I want to give you guys this talking point when it comes to music, because it's always somebody from the islands or somewhere else or Latin America trying to claim our music. Black American culture is so strong. I thought about this. I was at the Hollywood Bowl this past week with Nas, Busta Rhymes, Wu-Tang. Method Man came out, Jadakiss came out, Mary J. Blige came out, LL Cool J came out. And I was looking at 18,000 people to celebrate the Black culture. They love us so much. They love us so much, but they've been taught to hate us so much. In their mind, they have to find a way to rationalize why they love what we do so much. So that's why they have the need to infiltrate themselves and say that, hey, we're co-creators. Well, when they say things like that and they talk about an artist like Busta Rhymes, because, hey, Busta Rhymes, for all the shit he talk, that's a dope-ass MC right there, especially live. That's a dope MC. All that, when it comes to the rest of that shit that he do, all that hip-hop is Jamaican, here's what I tell Buster. Buster is an artist. He was going to be an artist wherever he was born. If he was born in China, he'd have been playing that Chinese shit. If he was born in Japan, he'd probably be a K-pop artist. If he was born in Latin America, he'd probably be the best salsa artist. Wherever he was born, he was going to be an artist, a musician. But he was born in New York, and he was raised in New York. That environment he was raised in, the environment you raised in shapes your music. The New York musical cultural environment was so strong, it had an imprint on him. And he expressed his artistic ability through the energy of New York, through the energy of Black America. So when they say, oh, it's Jamaican, no. Jamaica is your lineage, that's where you come from. But your musical expression is an expression, Fat Joe, of your environment. Your environment you were raised in dictates your music taste, not where you come from and ain't been living. That's why Fela Kuti couldn't get it straight until he brought his ass to America and saw what we was doing with the Black Power movement. Once he got in that energy, in that environment, our culture is so strong, it melted into his skin, and he took that back to Africa and expressed his African music nature through the cultural lens of the foundation of Black American. So you always want to make sure you have that point when people say, okay, Pete Rock is Jamaican, Dougie Fresh is Barbadian. Well, no, that means hip hop is Caribbean. No, motherfucker. If it was Caribbean, you'd have a scene in the Caribbean. The reason why the scene don't exist until you get here is because you were raised, Cool Herc, in an environment that Black people have been doing this rich cultural music thing in, and that thing got imprinted on you, and you're expressing your environment through your artistry. So that's all the fuck that is. It ain't got a damn thing about to do where you come from. Go ahead, Eve. You have something to say before we go to the next?
You made me think about Marcus Garvey and how his I guess thinking didn't really pop where he was from. It didn't really pop until he got over here with our energy. I don't know. You just had me thinking about how we make things pop and then people try to shit on us. But
Look, man, I'm from LA. I smoke on the freshest Cali finest. We can grow everywhere, but it's gonna grow its best with the right soil. So whatever thing you have going on inside of you, you need the right environment. Scientists found out something when they built a bio den over in Arizona. In Tucson, Arizona, they have a bio thing where it's like a glass house. It's supposed to be a self-sustaining facility to where everything grows, water, everything grows on the inside. Well, what they found out was trees weren't growing in that environment. They were planting trees, they gave trees the right soil, they gave it the right water, they gave it the right sunlight, but trees would not grow. They found out in that experiment that in order for trees to grow, you need wind. Without wind, trees can't grow. What does that mean? In order for any organism in nature, in life, to grow and be what it is, it has to be in the right environment. When it comes down to the Caribbean, that environment gives you a colorful sound. It gives you, that's why the music is so colorful. People born in tropical environments, they can hear color. They'll hear something and see green. They'll hear something and see yellow. That's why they dress with such bright colors. That's why their music is so bright. That's why when you hear that music, it has a certain swing to it. It has the energy and the vibration of an island environment. Versus when you come to the United States of America, we vibrate on a different frequency. We play our music in the 6/8 or the 4/4, and that's the march of our environment. Our environment lands on the one. That's our environment, and so our music interprets that. If you listen to music out of Detroit, it has a constant pace to it. We listen to that early Motown, dun 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 dun. It sounds like an assembly line. Why? Because those musicians worked on the goddamn assembly lines at the Ford factory, and then when they get off work, they play their music. So when they got hired at Motown, the Motown had the space of the sound, the music had the sound and the spacing of an assembly line. New York City, loud subways, trains, thousands of people walking with bad attitudes and cold ass weather or hot muggy weather. So you mean, you angry. That's gonna make the music harsh, huh? When you listen to hard bop jazz is a New York creation. Regular bop is out of Kansas City. Hard bop is out of New York. It's very hard, very rigid, in your face. Same thing with like the Chick Webb. You listen to Chick Webb do swing versus Count Basie versus Duke Ellington. Duke Ellington is classy, more sophisticated, more of a southern feel to it. The Chick Webb out of New York was hard in your face, knock your ass out. Same thing when you get to 70s funk. BT Express. Come on and do it. Do. That song Contagious is a sample of Do It by BT Express. Here Comes the Express. Hard in your face, D Train. Even the names of the bands. BT Express sounds like a train. D Train, you just don't know. His music was in your face because that's the environment in New York. So when New York hip hop came, New York hip hop was turntables, loud sound systems, because it's a loud fucking environment. And it's real hard and greasy and edgy because it's projects. Niggas living on top of each other. So the music is gonna sound like that. Versus when you come to LA with all this beautiful sunshine, it's 79 degrees right now, cool breeze. Man, we ain't got time for all that loud shit. Our music here in LA is gonna be more in the pocket. It's gonna have a lot of synthesizers. It's gonna have horns. It's gonna have strings. The music's gonna breathe. It's gonna be open because we live in a very sunny, open, breathy space, get the fuck out my way environment. So the music is an interpretation of your immediate environment. So if somebody says my parents was born over there but I was raised here, even if I came here when I was 7 or 8, I was raised in this environment, but I brought some environment that I no longer exist in to here and created a sound. Just by scientific fact, them niggas is wrong. We got the great black shark in this motherfucker. Hey, the black shark is in here. I know, Snake, I'm gonna get to you, but we got my man Black Shark up in here. I gotta hear the wisdom this brother gotta drop. And then I get to you, Snake.
Salute, black man, brother Dwan B, co-host E. Salute to the entire room. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I'll be very brief too, and then you could drop me back down to listener. But I came in when you were espousing on the point of making clear the origins of hip hop and Black American music. I'm going to point out something very simple, and this was probably already touched on, but here's something that the average person that may not be as well versed as yourself can go ahead and close the gate on that nonsense right away. If you created hip hop in the Caribbean, okay, that's where the epicenter was. Why has it not been a continuous part of the culture there? And the greater shutdown point would be on this. If that really was the home of hip hop, then the Caribbean would control all the current trends that we see in hip hop music over here. Everything will have to go through there. Instead, we see it's the other way around. The epicenter is right here because we built it, we created it. If you're the foundation of something, then the foundation shifts or moves, the entire structure moves. So with that said, I'll land my plane, brother. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this. I know you've been giving them that work. Please do continue doing what you're doing. I can't wait to see you in that hip hop documentary because it's time to clean house, man. We're going to have to let these people know that when you step into our house, you're going to wipe your feet. And if you try to put your feet on our couch, we'll just break your ankles then. That's just what it's going to have to come to. That's it. I'll land my plane.
That's because the hip hop barbecue menu is baby bags, mac and cheese, is potato salad, barbecue baked beans, not jerk chicken, plantains, white rice, and whatever the fuck else they eat. It's a totally different feel. It's a totally different thing. Hip hop is cheeseburgers and fries. God damn it, not uh, not Goya powder. It's seasoned salt. It's a totally different vibe. If they get that Goya out they life and replace that Goya, with some what we get down with, that'd be something different. But it's a different flavor. And I'm not here to shit on it because I like their flavor. I love Latin music. I Celia Cruz, shit. You give me 2 hours of Celia Cruz, and I don't know a damn thing that woman's saying, but I'm gonna be man, shit. I'm having Cal when it comes to man. You give me some Tito Puente. You give me some man. I'm into all that. I'm not here to shit on it, but it just has its own flavor. It ain't ours, and I just hope that one day either they're gonna respect it by force or by choice. Go ahead, Snake. Snake with the James Earl Jones picture.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
We
I
can
hear
Can you
you,
hear
see
brother.
you.
me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, peace, love, and blessings to everybody in this room. Everybody who has spoke, who's had the stage, all of y'all knocked it out the park. I've been on Twitter since '08. The Twitter spaces that I usually go into, I listen to them for about maybe 15 minutes to an hour, hour and a half. I got to go because it's just so chaotic. I appreciate the respect that everybody's showing to each and every one of you. And I just wanted to co-sign some of the stuff y'all was saying, Dwan, the music point you made about Busta Rhymes. Another key figure who is the epitome of what you said is Prince. I grew up in Minneapolis. I'm an Air Force brat. And we grew up in Minneapolis, and Prince is a direct product of his Minneapolis upbringing. We only had one station in Minneapolis. It was a R&B community radio station, and they played an amalgam of all of the various musics that FBA culture has brought us. Old school rock and roll, blues, some reggae, Caribbean music, and early hip hop. And he was the epitome of that point that you made. I also wanted to send a shout out to the RN. I'm sorry, I'm driving y'all. I don't have her name, but she was spot on talking about Operation PC. I would encourage her and each and every one of you to tap into this brother on Twitter. His name is Ray Bullock. I believe he's at Prince Ray Bullock. And if you want to know a lot about the esoteric and demonic programs that have been elected as a result of Operation Paperclip, when we brought all those Nazis over here, and then they went on to take over all of the pretty much all of the 8 areas that the Honorable Neely talk to us about. It's quite it's a mind blower. The research is mind blowing. But with that, I land my plane. I'm gonna keep on listening to y'all. I'm trying to follow every last one of y'all, and Y'all really made me think twice about this Twitter platform. I hope y'all keep this going. Okay, shout out to Randy Short too, man. I see you. Peace, y'all.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. And by land this plane, he's in one of those. Remember the airplanes on the Peanuts gang with that Snoopy used to fly in? That's like with Charlie Brown with his little scarf around his neck, and he got the sunroof open. He in one of them kind of airplanes right now. That's a good phone you got there, brother. He just finished doing 2 loop-de-loops and all that good shit. But yeah, it's a product of your environment. You know, Prince's music, just like Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix is the blues interpreted through that cold, rainy, muggy Seattle environment. Hippie culture is black culture. The ultimate hippie was Jimi Hendrix. All those hippies was just trying to dress like Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, if you listen to his guitar play, that was Muddy Waters. That was Bo Diddley. That was Howlin' Wolf. He took them all and mashed them into his sound in one note. Oh, that's a bow note. Oh shit. That wah wah, that whole wow wow wow. No, don't. That was just the technology had moved forward. Before the wah wah pedal, Muddy Waters was playing that sound. The wah wah pedal was literally created so white guitarists could sound like Muddy Waters. What Muddy Waters was doing with no amp and no pedal, they had to invent technology to sound like Muddy. But Muddy played on the amps of his time. When Jimmy comes around, Jimmy gets this new set of amps that's out there that and all these new effects, and he plays the sounds of Muddy through those effects, but the music is faster. Why? Because when you down there in the Delta, y'all know it's a whole bunch of Southern motherfuckers in here. Y'all know how y'all get down. Y'all slow than a motherfucker. Shit, the pace down there is. I listen to how my brother, Great Black Shark, talk. That brother sound like a good reverend right there. It's slow. Every word is thought out. My LA ass be talking fast and shit, muttering over words, stuttering and shit. Because in LA, we always trying to get somewhere. But down south, it's gonna be down. It's gonna be slow. It's gonna be pace. We will get there. It's easy. Seattle, on the other hand, it's a lot of water. Water's conductor. Water's energy. Water is it magnifies, and at the same time, it's always gray in Seattle. So the music is the water is electricity. That's why you need water to create electricity. And so with all that water, with that environment that's half depressing but electrically charged because it's always so wet, you get the blues interpreted through Seattle, which ends up becoming heavy metal, which ends up becoming grunge, which ends up becoming hard rock. That's just the blues interpreted through Seattle. That's why Kurt Cobain and his thing came out of Seattle. And what's her name? The sister that created grunge, drawing a blank to her name in the early 80s. That's why that sound came specifically from that area. That's the sound of the environment. Go ahead, BW. Unmute yourself.
I was just saying, you're giving out a lot of knowledge. I don't remember Busta Rhymes even saying he was from the Caribbean back in the day.
Oh, he hit that. Go ahead.
Right. So all of a sudden now all these foreigners coming out, I got this background. So what is it trying to get message? Because you done played us. Now you want to talk about your heritage or your culture. So I also want to ask, I remember Tyler Perry, I think he was on something, I don't know if I said on YouTube or something, when we was talking about how other people help one another, other cultures, and help them in position. I think I recall Tyler Perry saying something about he don't want to hire any more Black people who don't have the experience. And that's sort of odd to me. If he said it and maybe I misunderstood, because why would you say that to your people and know we having a hard time? Other cultures don't look at it like that. They'll move their people up and support their people, whether they have an experience or not. And I don't understand why would he want to turn us in, don't want to support us when we have always helped him, not the white people. We did when we went to his plays and made him rich. But then again, he want to turn on us because we're not qualified enough. So I just want to say that.
You have to look that. I didn't know he said that, but if he did say some scrub, I don't put it past any of these jokers in entertainment industry. And you know how it is. You know, and plus, it's hard to trust people with two first names. So you know what I mean. That wouldn't surprise me if he did that at all. But you know, when it comes to Tyler Perry, and when it comes to us as a people, that's right there. And someone mentioned it earlier. A commenter mentioned it earlier when they talked about how when people get a job and the black folks get a job, they want to feel like they better than the next black person and won't let them in. It's that destructive behavior that opens the gate, because we can always, and I'm so glad, like, I got the people in here mentioning. I salute to everybody that's in the chat room, because how I run my rooms, I don't do that arguing shit. I don't do that what black people need to do, talking shit. We like to be constructive over here. And so salute to everybody that's in here, because I don't do that low level vibration stuff where I am. You know, we're going to keep it constructive, keep it educational, and keep it fun, keep it funky, keep it funny. But when it comes down to it, these people over here, we always got to look at, because it's always a move that you can make to preempt what somebody else's move. We tend to look at other groups as powerful when they're not powerful. These are just groups that take advantage of our mistakes. Same thing when I coach basketball and I play basketball. The team that can take advantage of the other team's mistakes is the team that's going to win. Nobody's going to be perfect. But as a team, you want to minimize your mistakes. Black people, we keep running the same mistake over and over and over again. Other groups ain't even got to be smart. All they got to do is wait. Because what do we do traditionally? I'm not saying this is what we're going to continue to do, but what do we do traditionally? We have intergenerational fighting. My generation's music is better than yours. My generation's better than you. We have intercontinental fighting. New York is better than Louisiana. Remember, New Yorkers spent the 80s just shitting on the South. I feel bad for you down South cats, but we was in LA like, God damn, New York niggas is mean. They don't fuck with us, but they really don't fuck with you Southern niggas. God damn. They couldn't say a good thing about
Because
you.
they ran away. I'm just kidding. They didn't run away. The Great Migration. We've had trauma, Dwan. Like, I don't understand why everybody gets to get the excuse of having trauma, and then we actually have trauma, but then we don't give each other the same grace or courtesy, and it all goes to shit. Look, you had said something about the origins, and I was just thinking that hip hop is so.
What's that?
I got beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, chicken, turkeys, rabbits. You name it.
It's all of it.
I'm just saying, like, that's everybody tries to come and take ours. You can't take ours.
Everybody tries to take ours, but like going out back to what I was saying, as far as like the things that we can fix, we can stop the banging, the regional banging. That's just done. We black. Whether you LA's racism is just as racist as Mississippi. It just looks different. Florida's racism is just as racist as New York. It just looks different. We all dealing with the same shit. It just looks different. And racism, if you learn anything from Nikki Fuller, racism molds itself to its environment. So you can't look from your perspective and say, hey, that form of racism is easier to deal with. No, you can't do that. You know what I mean? We're dealing with it. The whole point is to not deal with it, no matter where the fuck you are. That's the goal. No matter where you are. If you live in Portland, Maine, and you're the only nigga there, you should not have to deal with racism. That's the goal. So we got to know that we got to stop the intercontinental banking. We got to stop the intergenerational banking. We also got to stop letting everybody the fuck in. We got to treat ourselves the way we treat other people. And again, I'm not criticizing us all the way, because we have trauma. Like, we have 400 years of trauma. So we're living out our traumas. It's something I see when I work with families. And I've always said this working with kids. Children are an expression of the traumas that they've gone through. All humans, we are living, walking expressions of our trauma, because we have a negativity bias. We tend to remember the things that hurt and harmed us the most, and we tend to forget the things that did us well and did us right, because that's a survival instinct. And we as black people, We've dealt with so much. Every human being has that negativity bias, but we dealt with so much historically and presently that we screwed up. We fucked up. But these spaces like this where we can have these conversations, where people who live in Minneapolis, we had a brother who grew up in Minneapolis earlier. We got people from all over. We can have these conversations, and through these conversations, we can say, hey, I'm not the only one, and we can heal ourselves. Don't let people minimize the importance of sharing thoughts and sharing expressions and sharing what you're seeing. Don't let nobody minimize that as just Twitter talk. These are things that are going to waken up the truth that's already within you, the things that you already know, the things that you've already experienced, but you go around life feeling like something's wrong with you because you're the only one that experiences this or see this. The purpose of these rooms is to heal through our collective experiences and through having these type conversations. That's my goal. You know what I mean? So not just to sit around, bitch, and complain. Let's identify what's going on, point it out, and let's heal from it. Because if we can stop the intercontinental banging, if we can stop the intergenerational fights, if we can stop letting everybody the fuck else in, and let's let other black people in who are like-minded, give them the compassion, give them the feeling, give them the love and credibility that we give outsiders, that right there will make it, that will solve 90% of the issues and make it 90% harder for these other groups to take what we have. But right now, they just take what we leave on the table. Now it's just time to stop leaving shit on the table and put some security guards at that door. Because we know they're going to coming with their grubby ass hands.
That made me think about why Tariq did make Slide from the jump. I mean, he talked about how, like, our sound kind of got left, and then Bruno Mars, K-pop, what's his name? Justin Timberlake, who tried to beat his feet. Is anybody in the room from DC? I saw Lioness in here for a second, but then she's out. But that was disrespectful. Who else? Robin Thicke. There's another one. I don't know. They come and take our stuff because we've left it and we've moved on to bigger and better things.
We leave it. The same thing happened in the 50s. What happened in the 60s was, and we got to the 40s and 50s. Dizzy Gillespie was on top in the 50s. You had your blues artists, your Muddy Waters. They were all doing their thing, and they were. But when the 60s came along and Motown hit, Motown changed the whole energy of everything. And Motown was called the sound of young America. And when Motown hit, basically it became a generational rift. Like my grandfather still was listening to B.B. King and Muddy Waters. My dad listened to Motown. And it was like the black artists that were from the previous generation whose sound has since moved on. It happened when swing moved on to bebop, because bebop was small. You have a 4-band group versus a 26 person group, you know, and that was because the economy got tightened. Because a lot of times our music changes also coincide with the economy. When swing was, when the World War II started to really to get bigger as he got further into World War II, there were less budgets to bring in 26 people in the band, and it was easier to pay a band of 4 members instead of 26 members. But I said that to say our music has been adapted because of the conditions and changes, but every 10 years, the youth take on a different sound, and the people who played that sound before, maybe the 2 or 3 top most selling artists, they get to survive and make it on the old school circuit, but the rest of them fall off into irrelevancy. And then what happened in the 50s and the 60s, you got these little white boys out of the UK come, and they love Muddy Waters so much, they named their group after one of his songs, and they're called the Rolling Stones. You get the Beatles. You get these groups that were listening to Motown, that were listening to, and not before Motown, they were listening to Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf. Now Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf are irrelevant in the 60s because Motown's taken over. Then you got Stax Records coming up down south. And then as you get to the late 70s, late 60s, early 70s, you got Philadelphia International coming. You got the Ohio sound coming. And so we cook it when it comes to our sounds. Well, what happens to the people who are the previous sounds? What generally happens is the white people or people from other countries, they start making money in Europe. You can go to Europe and live well in Europe. If you, all you need is 2 or 3 hits here in America, and you can live the rest of your life in Europe or Asia, and they'll pay for you to come. They'll come out. And what we saw in the 70s and the 60s was when our music, when it came to the people who attended the Muddy Water, he had to go to Europe to make money. And so a lot of that knowledge that music knowledge that he should have passed down to us directly, he ends up passing it down to white boys because we've now taken on a new sound. We've now taken on something new, and so the artists of the past, they got to go where they're gonna get paid. Black artists have never gotten paid enough up front to retire on, so they got to go where they're gonna get paid. We see this happening right now with the groups from the '80s. A lot of your '80s Martha Wash and all your '80s singers that were really real powerful voices, they make money in Europe. They make money on the disco artists. Donna Summer had to tour the gay circuit the rest of her life because those is the European circuit. We move on, and they end up passing that body of knowledge down to other groups, and then those other groups turn around and they appreciate it, and they do it it starts out of appreciation because I'm a musician. I've been in these environments. It generally, honestly, it does start out as appreciation in its inception. But these people can't control themselves when it comes to having to take over and dominate some shit. The first generation might appreciate. That second generation is coming to control. And you see it all the time. There's a picture that I posted of a few weeks ago. I don't know if I posted it on Twitter, but I posted it on Instagram. It's my father-in-law, James Carmichael, and Lionel Richie coming out of the studio. And I was like, who's that white boy? And he was like, oh, that's Richard Marx. And y'all know the white boy Richard Marx that had them songs in the 80s that hit off real hard. But he said, but when I was talking to him about that, I was like, why was y'all around him? He was like, he was just always be in the environment. He just always wanted to be around us. And we used to clown him like, man, your music sucks. You know what I mean? Like, basically, he was always there. He was afforded an opportunity because at this time, black people are now the young black people are now starting to turn towards hip hop. We're now starting to turn towards rap. And although he did mentor a lot of black artists like Babyface and whatever during that time, a lot of your black artists the youth started going into a different direction. So it was the white boys who was around. And they're not going to not pass the information down. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this is because we need to be the generation that when the sound moves on, we still show love and appreciation for the sound that got us there. And when I say love and appreciation, when they come out with a new album, we buy it. When they come on tour to our cities, we go. Because if we don't do that, we're now leaving our artists open to having to go to the rest of them people to give them our shit because we didn't support them. So that's some shit that we got to change too as a people. Black Shark, did you want to say something?
You're absolutely correct about that, brother, because see, the thing about it is when we create something, we got to start valuing the legacy of that. Everybody that comes around us, the reason why they're so compelled to try to emulate and then try to turn around and claim that they are the creators of something, we have a different flavor from every other people on the planet, period. I mean, so when other people come around that, they know they can't get that in their culture. It doesn't exist. The flavor that we have naturally, just as regular, everyday black people, from our vernacular, the way we dress, the food we eat, cook, whatever, they don't get that in their culture. So they become enamored with it. But here's the problem. And all of you are familiar with this phrase. Familiarity breeds contempt. It really does. The more familiar that they get, like the Fat Joes, they get comfortable. And we let the guests in our home get too comfortable. Then the next thing you know, they'll tell you that the home is theirs. So it's just going to take a dynamic cultural shift, like you said, as far as like us being the gatekeepers of our culture, being strict about correcting any fallacies or lies about the creation of it. And what you said, most importantly, the originators or the pioneers of our culture that are still out here doing that, we got to support them when they go on tour, what have you. Anything that they do, we need to make sure that they are held in an honored status and a position, because, see, here's the reason why that's important. Look at every other culture, right? Let's go to Fat Joe for a second. Look at his people. Show me a black rapper that can show up in front of a crowd of his people, call them derogatory terms. I won't say them here. Call them the derogatory terms that we know they call Hispanic people sometimes, and then turn around and tell them that we created something that they created. They would immediately come out with names, dates, start correcting us. They wouldn't tolerate that disrespect. So a lot of our people need to think about it from that perspective and have that mindset that no, we're gonna cut you off at the knees before you get started with that. If you come into our culture as a guest and you get disrespectful, then we got to bounce you out on your ear like, Uncle Phil did Jazzy Jill for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Throw you on out of here. And we can't be ashamed or hesitant to do that because, see, think about it. I'll land with this. Every other culture is exclusive, but we're the only one, by and large, when you compare it to every other culture in this country and outside of it, we're the only one that's inclusive like that. You know what I'm saying, brother? So I want us to get comfortable with kicking people out. It's a good feeling. It's cathartic. Throw them out. Throw them out on their asses. If they're going to be disrespectful, they can't come in here. So with that said, I'll land, brother.
You're right about that. We got to treat this like a group of 9-year-old boys and girls treat the playhouse. You can't come in our playhouse. You go to some kindergartners and you got 2 or 3 kindergartners that are friends and they got the sandbox to themselves. And that new kid comes to the school. They don't let that new kid in that sandbox. You know what I mean? That's that's how we got to be. And we got to be happy with it too. Like no, because power is an exclusivity. PlayStation's been running the game since PlayStation 5 has been out, not putting that many of them out there, making it exclusive, driving the value of it up. When you make things exclusive, see, whiteness is an exclusive thing. It's an exclusive club. It changes. You can be let in, you can be kicked out. It depends on how I feel today and what's going on and my numbers. If I need you to be a part of my group, as long as you kiss the ring, you can be part of my group. So what happens? You have all of these groups of people who've gotten their asses bombs over Baghdad like a motherfucker in their homeland. You done lost your uncles and aunties to Agent Orange and all the other chemicals this country done laid on your country, but you want to be white. They said, man, they sent you this propaganda that said whiteness is a thing. And basically, all whiteness is an unseasoned version of black culture as expressed through America. You know what I mean? That's all white American culture is black culture, without the sugar. It's just Kool-Aid and water. Matter of fact, it ain't even Kool-Aid, it's just aid. Water and aid. That's their culture, but we the one that put the sugar and the cool in it. And so what they do is they take our culture, they dumb it down, make it their own, and then they say, okay, this club is the best club. We're gonna four-wall this shit, and if you want to be in this club, you got to make sure you go shoot yourself a nigga. You disrespect a nigga, you treat them niggas crazy. And the more crazy you treat them niggas, we may think about one day letting you up in this club, and the more you kiss our ass. And so you deal with Asians, and here in LA, right again, it's blowing up in LA right now, the city council. These Rosales people over here talking about niggas over here in LA, and they Mexican and got everything that they got off of our backs. But they got that because the exclusive club of whiteness demands that you kiss the ring and you do your best to downplay the niggas over there. And because that club is exclusive, everyone around the world is fighting their hardest to be a part of that club, while at the same time saying, I don't like them. So we got to see that game being played, and we also know that we got to play that game too. We know that we got to play that game too, and that game is making it exclusive. Our culture is a premium thing. Our culture is a premium asset. Our culture is top of the line because it is. See, with white folks, they lying. They playing a game with people. You know what I mean? They play that all that glitters ain't gold game. We truly are the shit. All we got to do is list our resume and not tell one lie. We can say we changed the world with ragtime, with jazz, with blues. We can say we changed the world with hip hop, with soul, with R&B. We can say we changed how the world walked. We changed the world's food menu. We changed everything about and we can say that without a lie. So why not four-wall that? Think of the power that we have if we were four-wall what we just naturally do. And we created the super soaker, bitch. We can tell them that too. We not only created the functional stuff, we created summertime fun. So no matter what you want, we done did it. And if we four-wall that, man, we got a lot of power in that. And I think that's what we're doing. And that's what we're attempting to do in these Twitter spaces. And that's what we're attempting to do culturally right now as a people. But I know I don't want to hold y'all. I want my moderator, if y'all got something else to say, go ahead and say it, because I don't think Dr. Short going to come back. So anybody else got something to say, go ahead and say it, and then we can close the room out.
I'll add this in closing exactly what you just said there, brother. Well, we have to also make sure that we understand as a people, as I'm pretty sure I spoke on earlier, we need to start looking at each of the diversities of our culture within this country and appreciate them, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, down south, up north. We need to fall in love with our culture as a people all over again, because we will appreciate it more and we'll protect it more. And then the one thing that I want everybody to work on and fight, if you have ever been victim of it, and then we have to be more mindful about, dissuading people or shaming people when they start this. When you see another brother or sister that has come up and become successful by way of hard work, please, please, please do not fall victim to jealousy. That destroys all cohesive unity. There's nothing constructive about jealousy. Jealousy is a cancer and it's a detriment to our society. Instead, channel that into motivation. Channel that into motivation, whether you go and seek that person out and pay for their time to learn what they did, or you can channel it into motivation if they just say they don't want to tell you, because they don't have to. Then you sit back and observe. And if you're determined and dedicated enough to succeed, then you will be successful in what you're doing. Okay. So with that said, I just want to drop that thought on everybody, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their weekend. With that, I'll close. Thank you all very much for this constructive space. I'm going to have to play it back and catch what I missed.
Yeah, man, you're right about that. As far as I'm glad you dropped that on us. As far as appreciating the culture, because one issue that I have with hip hop, I call y'all hip hoppers. I'm a music lover. I'm not a hip hopper. I love black music, and hip hop is just is a small segment of our music. And as big as it is, it's still just a small segment of what we bring to the table. But one of the main issues I have with the hip hop sector is this whole regional shit. I know sometimes I'll be on Twitter and I'll say, "Oh, I don't like this particular artist." And they'll be like, somebody's always saying, "You only don't like them because you from the West Coast. You Cali niggas are haters." Like, no, I just don't like Pity Pablo. Like, I ain't got an issue with the region. And, it's just his music don't do it for me. And it's not about the region. It's just about, just like I love Scarface. Not just I love all Houston music. I love Scarface. I love Outkast. I love Big Crit. I don't really like T.I.'s music. I kind of like Ludacris. You know what I mean? But what'll happen is it'll become this whole regional fight. Oh man, West Coast and this and East Coast that. Nigga, hip hoppers, chill. It's just music. Every genre of black music sounds regional. I just broke down soul music. Soul music in Detroit sounds like an assembly line. Soul music in New York sounds like a train. Soul music down south is more laid back. Soul music and dragging. Slow music on the West Coast is more has a lot of strings and airiness to it. It's just because of the region. It's the same thing with jazz. You got Kansas City blues. You got Kansas City jazz. You got New Orleans jazz. You got New York jazz. You got Miles Davis' Birth of the Cool West Coast jazz. It all has a regional sound to it. Heavy metal has a regional sound to it. House music has a regional sound to it. Chicago house, Detroit house, New York house. Which house you living in? Whatever the fuck one you choose, do it matter which one it come from? It's black. That's the dumbest shit ever that we do. We do some dumb shit. And that's some of the dumbest shit that we do when it comes to our music. Man, no, man. Now you got your preference. Of course, your preference in music is probably going to be the region in where you spent the most of your life, because that's in your blood, that's in your DNA, it's in your vibration, especially if your parents was born in that region. Of course, West Coast sounds to me in hip hop are my favorite. My parents were born here. My grandparents met in LA. I'm not one of these niggas that moved to LA in the 80s. My parents been in LA for 100 years. So yes, I'm a West Coast ass nigga. But that don't stop me from loving Nas. I still went to go see Wu-Tang when they came out here. The New York State of Mind tour, I'm right there because I love the music. It's music, man. Fuck a region. It's black music. We gotta stop that dumb shit. It's black music. I got Rashad requested. I'm gonna get to you, Rashad. I'm not gonna end it, Jesse. I'm gonna get to you, Rashad. I got two more. I'm gonna let y'all two speak. Matter of fact, but let me finish this point. I'm gonna let y'all two speak, and then I'm gonna close it out. But
Hey,
we gotta stop that regional beefing. We gotta stop that regional banging. Fuck that regional beefing. Fuck that regional banging. It's black music as expressed through its environment. Some music you gonna like, some music you ain't gonna like. But either way it go, we're not gonna like everything. But you ain't got to shit. That's why I don't do top five arguments. Because in order for me to do a top five, that means I gotta shit on a guy. I can't choose between them niggas. Ice Cube is a guy. Nas is a god. All these niggas is gods. So if I don't put one of them gods, I'm shitting on the music god. Just because, and I'm arguing with another man that has his own preference, and we talk about all this dumb shit, and we don't get to nothing constructive arguing over gods. We gotta stop that bullshit. I'm gonna go Rashad, Judge, and Miriam. Go ahead, Rashad.
Hey, what's up, Dwan?
What's good,
Um,
man?
I was just thinking about that. Like, it's like someone trying to compare Ice Cube to Outkast. You can't really do that because they both got different sounds and they both bring something different to the table. Like when it comes to hip hop, it's just like you said, different expressions. And a lot of times when we listen to artists, it kind of, in my opinion, it ruins the art when you try to say, well, such and such isn't as good because they don't sound like this, or such and such isn't as good because they ain't got to sound like that. It's like, nah, you just got to enjoy it for the region it's from. Like, I'm not from New York, but I like listening to people like Big L. I like listening to Rakim and such like that because their sound is a whole different sound compared to what I grew up listening to, which is I grew up listening to that Southern sound. Like, I feel like a lot of Southern artists have that gospel feeling to it because they grew up in that gospel environment. So I never try to play the regional games because it dilutes hip hop. It messes up the sound on hip hop when you start putting that war against each other. But that's it.
That's real talk. The dilutes the sound. We ain't playing bullshit games. Go ahead, Judge.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. I came late, but I want to speak to the topic: are black men and women being erased? And we're not being erased. Black people going to be in this country. I want to say to the room that this is our country. We helped build this country, and we have to stop thinking that this country does not belong to us. If you look around, every aspect of American culture is influenced by black people, and it's about time that we harness our power that we have. Um, I'm building a black party, and I'm still working on this website. And one of the things I want to talk about, I'm gonna put things on here that talks about issues with us as a group. And jealousy is a thing, and that's one thing that it's very uncomfortable for me to address that issue because that comes from lacking, not having. That comes from our condition. And you know what, Dewan, I've been in California for over 20 years, but I'm a New Yorker. And I'm a hip hop elitist, not rap music. I'm from the original hip hop music in the Bronx, so I know hip hop music. But I really would like to get with you on the aspect of you being from Los Angeles, because as a black person who was not born and raised here, but who has been here for a long time, I think that we need to help change the consciousness of black people in Los Angeles and inner city Los Angeles. I think we have to help change the consciousness. I think it is a lot of jealousy. I think in LA they get the Hollywood effect. Would you agree that part of the
Well,
thing here is like a
I got a
Hollywood
first
thing?
says, what side of town did you move to when you moved here?
I live in Hacienda Heights.
Okay, yeah, that's the major reason why. Yeah, it's kind of how.
That's the major reason why what?
Yeah, yeah. You can
Major reason why what?
when a lot of black people that are out there that have gone out that way.
Mhm.
Those are people who they felt that I'm better than those cats over in the ghetto, and they left early. When we're dealing with South Central LA, there's a certain pride and a love here in the consciousness that we don't. That's the reason why riots pop off here. We don't take shit. If you the real LA, the south of the 10 freeway, Crenshaw District, Gardena, it's a different consciousness within this pocket, Compton, Inglewood, than it is outside that pocket. When you're dealing with black people who moved here and they've gone, most people, black people, when they move here, they
Mhm.
generally go to the valley. And then
I know. They go to Burbank or whatever because they come here for music or whatever. They
yeah, they go
like
there
Burbank. Yeah, I know.
and they assimilate around other black people who moved here, and they
Hmm.
had certain dreams or whatever. And depending on whether or not those dreams are met, they end up taking on a certain energy and opinion about the city and about what's going on. So what ends up happening is you have black people who moved here mingling with other black people who moved here, and they have a shared experience that is true and definitely true, but that's a shared experience of non-natives. And I see that all the time versus people born and raised here or may have moved from someone else, but when they moved here, they moved off 67th and Crenshaw, or they moved over off Gage and Figueroa. That person's going to have a totally different point of view on the consciousness within Black LA. That's why LA is so confusing to a lot of people, because you got to be in the pocket in the Crenshaw district. You got to be where we are to really get a temperature of the true consciousness of the city, because most black people aren't from here.
Yeah, I know that, but let me. I want to address what you said because I wasn't very clear. What I heard you say is that when people move outside, they don't live in the inner city. You felt like they think they're better. Did I hear you say that?
But no, what I was saying was that here in LA in the 80s, in the
Mhm.
90s, that's when people started migrating out of LA
Mhm.
into Pomona, into Hacienda Heights, into
Mhm.
that migration started in the late 80s,
Mhm.
Riverside. And what
Because it's
happened
cheaper. Because
was,
it's cheaper to live there. Is that why they moved there?
not partially, really the violence in the city. LA had the highest
Oh,
murder rate in the country in 1988. So
yeah. Okay.
the violence in the city is what people were really just moving out. You could sell your house and you get a house out that way for real cheap.
Mhm.
It wasn't much traffic back then. You
Mhm.
can go out there. You're not having to deal with all the violence. You ain't dealing with the LAPD. You ain't dealing with none of that stuff. You just want to.
Yeah.
You ain't dealing with the shitty schools. You get new, better schools. So what ended up happening is, as people
Mhm.
moved out, as you got into the 90s, you started developing seeing a certain attitude of those who moved out. Like, what's wrong with you niggas who still living back there? And it kind of became a thing. But is that kind of became a thing in the 90s. It wasn't always like that.
I really would like to speak to what you just said and have you be open about what you just said. What I heard you say was people moved away because of the violence. And one of the things that I want to address with you, because well, let me tell you something. I know you know that Governor Newsom is doing the reparations thing. And what
Yes.
I want you to know is as goes California, as goes the country. And what I wanted to be a strong black presence in California. That's my goal, okay? One of my main goals. And so you said that people moved out because of the violence. And what my first statement was is the consciousness of black people in Los Angeles as in respect to how black people love black people. So they moved away because it was violence, right? And when you love each other, when you have harmony, there's very little violence. I recognize that the violence is based on the condition. Okay. So do you understand what I'm trying to
And
say?
the, and
I'm trying to say, okay.
take into account the condition. The
Mm-hmm.
condition was the war on drugs. The condition was our own
Mm-hmm.
government that we paid
Yep.
taxes to, the
Yep.
police that we paid to protect us. They were the ones ushering in the drugs, and they were the ones passing them out. My
Yep.
dad used to be in the game in the 70s. In the
Mm-hmm.
70s, when my dad was in the game, before the drugs got to the gangsters, when the drug dealers had them, when Tootie Reese was in control of LA, people only got a certain amount. It was divided up on blocks, and people. It was very rare that there was fight over territory. People who were hooked on drugs, they can get their heroin, and it wouldn't be all these fights. But what happened in the 80s is the traditional drug lines got disrupted. The people who were in control, who kept things steady, they got locked up and put in jail. And then the LAPD, the police, and Dr. Randy Shore, who was in here earlier, he is the person that got Dick Gregory in contact with Gary Webb, and who got in contact with Maxine Waters to expose the whole thing. Salute to Dr. Randy Short. I wish he was back in here, but he was the person that helped expose that whole thing nationally. What happened was the gang members got the drugs, and then the LAPD are the ones who drew up the drug lines. And then when things would happen in this city, it would be the LAPD that would. I remember I had an uncle, not an uncle, a cousin who had gotten locked up, and then later on that weekend, his car was involved in a drive-by in a rival gang neighborhood. How that happened. So it was a war that we didn't know at the time. We felt it. I remember my dad talking about it, but at the time you didn't have empirical evidence, but there was a shift, and it happened very fast. In 1980, wasn't much violence in the city. 1988, highest murder rate in the world, in the country. In 1968,
Do you know that LA, South Central LA, only had one murder in 18 months in Watts? Only one. The change in environment happened when the country started an internal war against the citizens of LA. So that's what the violence was about. But again, at the time, you don't know this is going on. You thinking all these niggas is just killing each other, and that was the perception. And so, speaking of what you're talking about, self-love, the perception was, man, you can't go around LA. If you see another black person, you might get shot and killed. You didn't know what was going on underneath all of that. So those people then ended up moving out and then developing a certain perception of LA. Well, nowadays, them people out done shit. They done moved so goddamn far. They living in Vegas and Atlanta right now. So if you got a black person living in Dallas or Atlanta and you listen to me right now, I'm probably talking about one of them people too. So don't take them as real LA. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I love everything you said because what I want, brother, is people be aware of California. When all the things you were talking about, the crack epidemic, I was in New York City. Okay, I'm an old broad. And what a lot of people don't know, and it hurts my heart, and it's going to bring tears to me, is they don't recognize how racist California is. I was in a room with an assemblyman from out past Ontario. He said he took his black wife to the South. She said, I feel more comfortable in the South with white people than the white people in California. California is Jim Crow. It is the most Jim Crow anti-black state. The conditions of black people in South Central has to do with the other man. They selling drugs, they trying to live, they trying to survive. When you try to go on a straight and narrow, get a regular job and try to survive like American citizens, these crackers have their foot on your neck in California. So if y'all looking at black people kind of sideways, like they acting crazy, because when they try to go on a straight and narrow, when they try to do something right, when they try to live right, they keep their foot on their neck. Now, Maxine's Waters, I went to her for something and she didn't show up the way I needed her to. Karen Bass, I went to her, she didn't show up the way I need her to. Black people, they ain't gonna free us. We're gonna have to free ourselves. And I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah, Maxine Waters don't fuck with us. She got her clout off of exposing the crack epidemic. And then since then, she's been using that clout for her own personal wealth and not
Oh, I got
fucking
her
with
people
us.
on video. I got her people on audio. I got her people on audio. I got all her people on
Good.
audio. And when one of her man who answered, I like, you know what, I love black people. So I don't like throwing black people under the bus. But she didn't show up for me where I needed her to. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm looking at her sideways. You know what I'm saying?
If
But
she
I'm
if
not.
she was if she was Mexican, you would have showed. If you was Mexican, she would have showed up. I guarantee goddamn to you
And
that.
you know, it hurts my heart because her person who called me was a Mexican lady, and that reason why kept returning my calls because I had a Mexican lady on audio. Every time I call anyone in California, I said this is being video recorded because in California you can record them, you just gotta let them know. And I got all her people on recording. She got a couple of black people in her office, one young black girl who I like. But you know, she worked for Maxine Waters. And what I gotta make y'all understand is black people in this country, when y'all looking at black people and you calling them coons, you got to understand that they have to navigate. And it may look like coonery, but they have to navigate. And you got to be mindful of that. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying. We're gonna get to the next speaker. But yeah, black folks, yeah, Maxine Waters and Karen Bass, they look like two characters on Fraggle Rock when you see them together. And I don't like it because on one hand we do have people that got to navigate. On the other hand, we dealing what Karen Bass has been doing. She flat out just saying "f you niggas." She laughed at. We have a reporter right here called Slauson Chick, and Slauson Chick tried to ask her some questions about reparations for the black homelessness, and Karen Bass laughed at her. But then when the Latinos asked about homelessness, she answered their question in long form. So that's what we're dealing with when we're dealing with "Come Along and Play," ready for another day here on Fraggle Rock. Go ahead, Mary.
Oh, good evening to the room. B1 FBA family, first and foremost. And I have nothing but love and respect for our brother, Dr. Short, who is a long standing soldier in our Black agenda and our movement as well. I would like to hats off to you, Brother Dwan, B, for hosting the space. Shout out to you, Sister Just Eve, and shout out to you, Brother Great Black Shark. First and foremost, I wanted to get that off the way. To touch back on some of the things you were talking about, because I would like to touch upon a number of things, but try to go fast here. Myself and a sister named T. Morgan, we are going to try to start having a weekly space that is um, targeting like the media and some all this racy stuff that they are pushing, and is pedophile agendas that they are pushing towards our children, as well as for us as adults, that we don't care to see some of the degenerate behaviors and delusion and confusion that they push forth online. So I would like to say that first and foremost. And then I also, if it's okay with you, Brother DwannB, I would like to say about our sister Tasselin, Tasselin Figaro, that is, who is teaching, who's going to give an online course and program teaching us how to navigate and move among the political streets out here. She's going to give different techniques on that, and so that we.
Wow. Dr. Short, welcome back. Sister Mary, I'm so sorry.
My bad, my bad. I want let her finish that one thought, and then we're gonna get right to Dr. Short.
Yeah.
I hit mute everyone when
Yeah, look,
I went to go
everybody,
hit
that was
accept.
not me. I was
Yeah, no, that was me.
apologizing on
And
behalf.
I went to I saw Dr. Short pop back up in here, so I went to hit accept, and then I hit mute while she was cooking. Finish what you said, then we're gonna get back to the great Dr. Short.
Okay, thank you, brother. Hi, Dr. Short. It is so lovely. I'm so grateful that you came back in the room.
Happy to see
All
you back,
praises.
brother.
Yes, indeed. So that's understandable, Brother Dwan, that happened. But as I was saying, Sister Teslin is going to give a she's going to do all bulletins both on Instagram, YouTube, and she's linking Twitter as well to her program that she's going to give over the different points and strategies on how to support our Black candidates that we want to see push forward in office, and how to help them on the grassroots level so that we can be more proactive in that. That is one phrase: push the line 66866. You need to text that. That again is push the line 66866. So I wanted to get that out there, and I'll yield the floor. If Dr. Short would need to say anything, I'll yield the floor, and I'll just come back up and touch on other points that I wanted to get to.
Can
Cool,
that
yeah.
information be put in the Jumbotron so everybody can see that?
Yeah, post it in the Jumbotron, and that way we can click on the links.
Okay, I'm kind of new to Twitter. I don't know how to do all this.
Okay.
So if you will, Sister Just Eve, I would be forever grateful. We all would if you would put that up there. That is again, push the line. All one word, one phrase. Push the line 66866. Text that to register. Thank you. And Dr.
Mary,
Short,
before you go, I'm
yes.
sorry, guys. Can you, Mary, can you send me a DM with the links that you were talking about for Teslin, and I'll also attach the push the line to the jumbotron.
Okay, will do. And Dr. Short, I am so grateful that you are back, and I definitely still have to email you. A lot of things happen, but no excuses. And I'm going to
It's
contact you
it's
back
it's
about the East
it,
St. Louis race riots. Yes, sir.
it's you know what, I'm going to make certain that you get in touch with Azima, who's because we will do something. I, I absolutely, East St. Louis is very important. And let me just say this to y'all, because we need to get in touch with our heart, minds, and souls so you can understand this is very, very important to me. I had nightmares for well over 10 years of being Black in a massacre and seeing people hung and murdered. They didn't touch me, but they're killing everybody around me. I had this nightmare for years. And it would traumatize me and try to think, I don't think like this. And it would happen again and again and again and again, sister. Do you hear me? And black people hanging, people murdering babies. It's just crazy. I'm trying to figure out what the hell is this? I don't know anything like this, not in my family. I couldn't figure out where does this come from. It bothered me for years. It bothered me for years that I had these awful nightmares. You get this screaming and and I have a friend who had family that did work. I don't know if you heard of the McFadden family, but they used to do education in East St. Louis. The McFaddens. My friend's a genealogist. She died in 2019. I told her about these nightmares. I told her this in like 1989 because I just had the nightmare again. And I tried to figure out and it just so happens, she says, have you ever considered that this sounds like East St. Louis? And I said, I remember seeing a listing of East St. Louis in one of the history books that we had in my home, right? But it never said much other than something bad happened in East St. Louis. So I went and I looked and read up on the East St. Louis race riot, or should I say the genocide. And after that, I never had the nightmares anymore. Are you understanding me? And so once I read that, the depictions of Elliot Woodwick's book, Race Riot in East St. Louis, matched my nightmare. No one ever talked about East St. Louis. I was a history major. It never came up. But I stopped having nightmares. And so when I went to St. Louis for the first time, I've been following St. Louis for years because my mentor was from Little Rock, Arkansas. There were supposed to be 10 kids that went to Central High, but there were only 9 because one of them was my mentor whose family moved from Arkansas to St. Louis because they were afraid the Klan would kill them. So my mentor was from St. Louis. So I've always paid attention to St. Louis, and he and I had a bet. He said nothing would ever happen in St. Louis amongst Black people. And I told him St. Louis is going to be the place where Black people rise up again because it's never happened there before. He died in 2001. So I've been watching St. Louis ever since he and I had this disagreement over what St. Louis was going to do. I'd never been to St. Louis. And so I had been telling people, watch St. Louis, watch St. Louis, watch St. Louis. And between that time, of course, I had done research on how East St. Louis was the spark plug for Black people to fight back all over the country after what happened there. In particular in D.C., East St. Louis is the reason that Black people bought guns and fought and beat white people in D.C. in 1919 because the motto was, we're not East St. Louis. That's how my hometown is. Remember, East St. Louis was a motto that people talk about. So my God sister, it just so happens, I'm almost done. I just want you to understand how this stuff is spiritual. And we need to be real with our dreams and thoughts. If you encounter or meet someone, you need to hook up and connect. That's how people are able, through the Underground Railroad, nothing's get away. Sometimes your spirit will help you find truth. When I went to St. Louis for the first time, I had met a woman that I had heard on the radio, and there was something different about her. This is the woman I want you to meet. Her name is Azima. She's one of the first Black women to work for NASA. She's a mathematician, a physicist, a nutritionist. She's a genius. I heard her voice and I knew I had to know her. And so when I went to meet her in St. Louis, I began to tell her about this nightmare. I had only told one other person. They were also from St. Louis. And as I described the story of me watching my mother die on a raft in the Mississippi River and all of this stuff, I'm trying to get her to tell me that my story is stupid. This is just something that happened. And I describe it. She says, keep talking. I kept telling her about the dream, this, that, and the other. And I says, do you think I need some Prozac or something? Because this thing really bothered me. And I says, nothing wrong with you. I says, well, come on, sister. A woman on a front door with kids in the Mississippi River? And she says, my grandmother escaped East St. Louis with her front door with her two children, my father and my aunt. And she died thereafter because she got sick from being in the water, trying to get across the Mississippi and not be seen by white folk who were shooting people on the bridges and everything. Are you hearing me, sister? What are the chances that the first time I described the dream to someone that I would be talking to a person whose survival counted on this very person getting across the river? When you meet Azima, you'll realize I'm not making this up to impress anybody. Nobody on here is anybody I need to lie to or impress. So there's something to East St. Louis and me. It came up also when I was doing my trying to do a doctoral degree at UVA. East St. Louis came back up, and the person that was the subject to one of my major papers was all into East St. Louis. So that's how it happens. And of course, I was in Brazil, and everybody in Brazil liked Catherine Dunham, and she's from East St. Louis. And there you have it. And then my best friend, female from Howard family, had an East St. Louis connection. We need to connect with our minds. And when you meet people, we need to stop taking our dreams, our thoughts, our context for granted. We need to get deep about each other. We need to take each other more seriously. We take each other for granted. That's part of the erasure too. How many of you on this call don't know which towns and counties your families came from down south? How many of you don't know the first proper names of your ancestors, at least 4 generations back? How many of you don't know your fathers or your mothers or your sisters or your brothers or your cousins? Or how many of you only know your first and second cousins? How many of you only know people that go to the same church or live in the same city? How many of you have never been to the places that your family comes from? How many of you have never gotten an ancestry subscription? How many of you have never been to the archives or to a historical society to try to figure stuff out? How many of you have not checked to see if the land that your family had has been stolen, or if you even had land, or if you still own it? That's part of the erasure. We ourselves, by not being proactive about who we are and where we've been, and if you don't know, damn it, ask questions. You know, you want to see Black people ask questions? Talk about historical facts and reality. And Negroes have a million questions and a million rebuttals. All of a sudden, it's like, Jeopardy. Or like, what's that thing with Alex Trebek, the one that died? Yeah, Jeopardy. All of a sudden, everybody's a goddamn genius when you know what you're talking about. We need to be geniuses every day of our lives, asking questions. Mama, who's that? Where are they from? I'm not talking about asking who they slept with or how much money is in their bank account, but what is their connection to you? It is a fundamental mistake, and I want to blame everybody for not doing everything they can to put together as best they can who they are and who their family and people are. It's a life or death situation. This economy is about to collapse. And imagine you'll do for someone that's connected to you more likely than you will someone you don't know, someone that has no relevance to you. The reason that Black folks were able to make it in Tulsa and in Durham and in Washington, D.C. and Bole and all the other places is that people had some idea of what their linkages were to each other. We've gotten grand. In fact, we're the new white people. Everything that we said about white people being soulless and antisocial, that's who we've become as we've been erased. Our music doesn't talk about love anymore. Like there used to be hate songs by the Rolling Stones when Marvin Gaye's singing Let's Get It On. They're singing Stupid Girl. We've ceased to want to be connected. And it isn't everybody, but some of us are going to have to start becoming ambassadors. We spend too much time trying to be bridge builders to other races and ethnic groups. We need to bridge build amongst ourselves. If a bridge should be built, cut off the coons, chloroform the coons, get rid of anybody that doesn't want to be part of the collective, and a lot of stuff gets easier. Let me just say back to erasure, segueing back to it, the black codes, the slave codes, or whatever you want to call it, were very emphatic that they did not like unity amongst the various people. They don't like unity. In fact, if we can talk about the Willie Lynch letter, it is about erasing the necessary reciprocal bonding that make a people viable. That's part of the erasure too. And that's why I hate feminism. I hate womanism too. We need something else. We need equality. And we need real womanhood and real manhood. Anything influenced by another group of people that hate our guts, if it's a group of carpet munching white women that inform how you deal with your man, something's wrong with you. Vice versa, if the black man saying to the black woman, her hair has to look like a white woman's hair, or her behind has to be flat like a white, he's sick. And it goes both ways. Everybody's got a role to play. Being a man doesn't mean that you're a freedom fighter, and being a woman doesn't mean you're a freedom fighter. You're either a freedom fighter or you're not. You're either a patriot to your people or you're a traitor. There's no in between. And that's part of erasure too. If you make everything a gray area, well, I get along with everybody and I go to church, I'm going to pray for everybody. I've never been to any place where folks are praying for black people unless it's black people themselves. I've never been anywhere. They don't talk about black people on St. Patrick's Day, although they used to kill black people on St. Patrick's Day. And St. Patrick may have been black, but that's another discussion.
Hey, Dr. Short.
Yes, sir.
I want to open up what we were talking about on the phone the other day. Well, one of the intents of us doing this room also. Remember our second topic we were talking about? These dudes,
oh yes,
black men, and this, and we acting like pussy there's a shortage of it out there, and we get stupid instead of being playing with our shit.
Yeah, that's part. Let's talk about that. Look, one of the greatest erasures that goes all the way back to Africa is what I call the brother fucker psychology. Brother fucker. This is black men that are jealous, hater, envious against one another for the sheer fuck of it. Black men who say that they're heterosexual are jealous of a black man who has a woman. It's as if he's want to put an RFD chip in the prepuce of his penis. What do you care if he's with the woman? You want him? And if you don't, then damn it, be happy he found somebody. Because the same dude that don't like a man being with the pretty woman, he don't like the dude if he's bi looking at him with Bambi eyes, right? And he don't like him if he's a sissy if he comes switching by. It seems as if of those three options, I'd rather you be with the woman than looking at me or staring at my groin. You know, have like a tape measure and shit. No, he's about an 8. Nah, I can't do that, right? The brother fuckers act as if there's a pussy shortage. So every black man is my enemy because there's never enough pussy for one. And definitely there's not enough pussy for two. And so black men who are trifling, you're trifling because we're separate and we don't work as a unit. We're not an army to build and protect our people. So there's a thing in sociology called alternative striving adaptations. That's when people are marginalized. In other words, they're broke ass, beaten down, loser niggas. Since I can't get on Wall Street or a corporate board, I invent something to make myself feel big about. Like I have lots of pictures of bastard children that I don't feed or take care of or visit. Or I talk about all the bitches I've had, not married one of them. Or I talk about how many 40s I did or how much weed I smoke or how many beats I make. And by the way, how many niggas, women I've screwed behind my friend's back. All of that is to make themselves something because they feel like they're nothing. And in reality, it isn't about you being big or you being great, but about us being as a collective great. We have a defect in our culture, in particular amongst men, of wanting to be the only one, like a nigga that won't let anyone else touch the basketball or football, or the dude that has to screw every woman just to keep you from having one. They got 50. The world's never going to run out of pussy as long as there are people. But the world can run out of blacks if we get decimated. And so the black man has to stop being a punk. He only wants to compete with other men or prey on lonely black women, many of them overweight. Many black women have kids, made some bad choices, or got molested and sexually activated early, and they just want a man. They make who they are as men the victimization of women and children, and they rape men too, and molest boys too, and they're brother fuckers. And all this competition, like the world's going to run out of pussy. And yes, when they were in slave castles, they were removed from women. Part of our oppression is it does marginalize men. It's been hard for someone like me to have enough money to start a family. It is. They've deliberately done this, brought in millions of people to make it. But the answer is that if we came together instead of fighting against each other, acting like the world's going to run out of pussy and stabbing every other black man in the back is going to stop these cholos and tacos from coming here, or the Asians. When we dog each other, it's not going to make the Indians with the dots in the head like us, or whites like us if we slaughter each other. But the average black man thinks, so the world's going to run out of pussy, so no black man can be my friend because every black man's the enemy, especially if he's straight, because we both want pussy and it's not enough. And by the way, you sisters who have any character don't like it either. You think black men like this are stupid. Have you ever been in the street and every woman, the dude has to yell at every woman. He has laryngitis and he's yelling. Even dudes with the tracheectomy because they smoke too much. Hello, I would like to get some of that ass. I would like to get some of that ass. This is stupid. We need some damn freedom. We need land. We need business. We need to be building. Other people screw and abort less than we do and have more proof that they've got some cum because they're people that came from it instead of it being in a dumpster or being sold a piece at a time to some body part dealer. And the same black men that are brother fuckers say they hate sissies, say they hate gay and they're so straight, but in effect, they prefer for other men to be homosexual and trans and bisexual because there'll be more pussy for them. If you think like that, you're just a fag that likes pussy if you want your brothers to be emasculated and destroyed. If you think that you're enough man for 10 women and you can't afford a half of one, which is why a lot of them go to strip club where you can get a little contact $20 at a time if you have a real 20. Those niggas be in there with fives. Come on, Dwan. You know niggas are trying to put a five up and they fold it up so the woman can't see. Cheap ass niggas. Get a damn blow up doll. Or invest in a real woman, a real family. We should be happy for one another. If I see a dude in love with the woman, I'm happy that they love each other. Yeah, black family. Not damn. My dick should be up inside her, not his. Who is she? So he's her husband. It's stupid, black men. We look stupid. If we aren't creating families, we're just fucking a miss. If you don't want the next brother to make it and you wonder why the other people succeed, because they can come together. The only black men that I see band together in this culture, sadly, are black men that have sex with each other. Seems like men that like pussy should be able to have something in common, that we become fathers and uncles and brothers and we have families and we're concerned about women that we're supposed to be protecting. All these missing black women, many of them are black women that were in prostitution who end up dead or missing. As I said, if you love pussy so much, this couldn't happen. Our women couldn't disappear. Our kids couldn't disappear. We need a different concept of manhood, a manhood that's not based on an adaptive a striving adaptation, but a manhood that's proactive, that's positive. If we built that kind of community, there will always be enough pussy for everybody. If we don't, which the chances are, if you're divided, then you end up in jail, there's a real pussy shortage in prison. And there's a pussy shortage if you're in the grave. Or if you have both of your legs cut off because you have diabetes or whatever. We have to have a manhood that is cooperative, that is collegial, that is protective, that has some redemptive value. And it's not about me being the biggest or baddest, but my people being the biggest and the baddest. Go somewhere and mess with white folks, and you'll see white men come together as a team to fight you. The Ku Klux Klan means circle of friends. That's an aggregate of white men that are going to fight for white men's power. Where is this amongst black men? Why do we take selfies when the cops are killing one of us? And these the same Negroes go to the gym, got enough muscle to be Hercules on steroids, and you can't lift a finger to deal with these killer cops. You can't check the gangs. What the fuck man are you? Can't work together. Can't be happy for one another. Kids don't know who you are. His families are so screwed up. A lot of niggas are crazy because one man screws 20 women. The kids don't know who each other are. We've got folks having sex with their brothers and sisters, producing monsters in our community. You need to think about where you drop those seeds. Pussy shortage. There's no such thing.
That's
What?
real talk. Watch where you drop those seeds. Because as men, you see the women out there. You know the difference. Everyone has his own vibration. You know between, what's an elevated person, what's not. You have cats, like you said, they'll go around there and prey on women that they know is at a vulnerable state. They'll go around there and look for women in a certain condition and get as much as they can and drop babies, and then turn around and even if they are somewhat present, if you have 5 kids by 5 different women, how present can you be for those babies?
And
These
how
are
many
decisions that
Big
we have to think
Macs?
about.
And how many Big Macs can you buy if you're working for UPS or Amazon? Come on. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit, people. It's bullshit, brothers. And by the way, I know Negroes listen to this saying he's advocating homosexuality. Do you know what homosexuality is for a lot of people in DC? A man that gets married and stays with one wife. Man, that's gay. They literally flip everything around to justify the bullshit, filthy, sinner, hellbound shit that they're on. And by the way, sisters, y'all need to cut them off. They're talking about no voting, no vucking, no working, no black consciousness, no vucking, no decency, no manhood, no vucking. Stop screwing the sorry dudes. The bar has to be raised. Look, don't worry about him. Every rat's got more than one hole. You need to come off the market. That would help people out. Okay, we got a lot of dick hogs out here that enable the brother fuckers and these sorry black men. Y'all need to go a couple of weeks without getting some. I mean,
Dr.
stop.
Short, and for the people in the room, why is it Dr. Short talking about this? I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background as Dr. Short cooks. We're talking about this because we were having a conversation last week about how a lot of black men and how we interact. So when Dr. Short and I talk, we just by default, we're constructive people. We keep the conversations constructive. And I was talking about how as black men will they'll be in their 40s and 50s, still talking about looking at the pussy count as a measure for manhood. And I get that in your teens and your 20s, your children. But as you get into your 40s and 50s, that point, it's like, what's up with us, brothers?
I've seen
And
people
how
doing it in
I've
their
seen
70s. I've
in
seen
their
people doing it
70s,
in their
yeah.
70s and 80s. My
And on top
God.
of that, as a married man, being married, I know there have been certain environments that I've gone into to where it's like when they know that you married and you with one woman, that's your ace, that's your number one. you are treated. I am sometimes perceived in a certain light. And it's one of the, on one hand, I do get a lot of respect for it. I will say that, but brothers at the end of the day, at the bottom line, respect it. But on the top, it's a lot of insecurity, a lot of idle jabs, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
shit like that. And so we were speaking against what breeds this condition. So a lot of what Dr. Short is talking about right now is really talking about, and fellas, we all know, we've seen it happen. We're here to discuss a constructive conversation because these are the things that we can do to change. If we fix these things, that can go 90% of the way of stopping how other people treat us. But go ahead, Dr. Short.
Hey, Dewan, you know what some of these haters do is they call you a Ned. You know what a Ned is?
What?
A nigga with erectile dysfunction. That's why he's with some woman. That's why
Yeah.
that nigga, that nigga can't get it up. That's why that bitch should take that weak ass and marry my ass. No nigga have but one bitch. That nigga's a
You're
nigga.
right about
Nigga
that.
with erectile dysfunction.
I've heard motherfuckers say stuff like that, and I turn around, I'll be like, I'll look at them and I'll be like, okay, you just mad because you got a 6-pack of abs, you done went to the gym, you done did everything, you done got your PhD, and you go home lonely than the motherfucker, and
Mm-hmm.
they can't get, a lot of these cats don't get why and how one man can stick with a woman. Matter of fact, find a woman who is the one for him, and then turn around and do right by her because
Mm-hmm.
too many men are running around trying to. Basically, the question that they ask themselves is, how can I get the best woman on earth and still be a ratchet? And the truth
Right.
is, you have to clean up your life. You have to make sure that your life is in alignment and
Mm-hmm.
you are living the life that you want to attract from the next person. But so many of us are not self-reflective like that. We turn into the hater that Dr. Randy Short is talking about.
And yeah, and see, there are a lot of brothers that are MVBs, and that means most vicious bitch, not most valuable player. A lot of men are the bitches. You know, I think a bitch, and a lot of men are bitches. They just have dicks, and they get a pass. No, it's time for us. We need to get rid of male bitch fuckery. There are a lot of bitches out here. Stop being a goddamn bitch. Just because he got screwed a woman, that don't make you much of a man. Rapists screw women. Do you call that manhood? Some people do, especially when they're in those secret societies and stuff, be running trains and getting folk drunk and drugging them. In fact, hold on, let me do a joke, brother. Let me just go light for a second. We've had too much seriousness, Dewan. Let me do a joke with you. Did you hear what happened when Kamala Harris was talking to Stacey Abrams? And Kamala Harris heard that Stacey Abrams wanted to go dumpster diving to get herself some some taco meat out the dumpster at a Mexican store. Do you know what Kamala Harris asked Stacey Abrams to bring her back? Hello?
What do you say?
She said, bring me some Spanish flies.
Oh no.
Okay.
I thought my mic was on. Spanish
Okay.
flies.
Yes, because you don't know what it is. She's so stupid.
Do you know who Kamala Harris reminded me of? I don't know if you guys saw that movie back in the early '90s. It was a movie called Strictly Business with Tommy Davidson, and
Yes, I remember her
he
with.
had that girl, and when she was
Yeah,
getting, and that's how Kamala Harris fucks. She get in the bed and be like left, right, left, north,
right.
south, left, right, longitude, latitude. That bitch ain't
You,
got no movement. Go ahead.
you know what Kamala Harris's favorite soul song is, don't you?
What is it?
I'm Going Down by Rolls Royce. You know what? I was thinking about the song that best does not describe Stacey Abrams' table manners. You know what that song is?
Go ahead.
Slow Hand.
Are you talking about?
Go ahead, Doc.
I
The
thought you were
Pointer
gonna say.
Sisters.
I thought you were gonna since you brought up Stacey Abrams, I thought you were gonna bring up a Joe Levert song. You know what I mean? Because
Oh, you mean
I thought you,
Casanova? She's
yeah, baby, don't
Casanova
hold
too,
me.
but with women.
For those of you who may be new around here, Dr. Short and I make it a habit of marginalizing Black people who marginalize the greater good of Black society. We
Hmm.
don't give a damn. If you take a political career and you make the decision to undermine the greater good of Black people for your personal gain, we don't fuck with you and we don't respect you and we're going to say some very disrespectful things because, hey, you don't fuck with us anyway, so why should I fuck with you?
It's not even disrespectful, Dwan. It is matching the energy. We are
Yeah.
treating them with the same amount of respect. So
Exactly.
I don't
Mhm.
even want to put that out there.
Okay,
And
you're right
just
about that.
Dwan,
Same
did you
amount
know
of
we
respect.
have some speakers who had some hands up?
Oh, I
Oh,
do.
by the
Oh, my
way,
bad.
have y'all noticed that the one that the sister? I don't know if y'all can hear me.
Yeah, we hear you.
The sister that is the White House spokesperson, that she looks like a crackhead Ronald McDonald. I don't know why that is. But just
John Pierre.
yes,
Yeah.
she looks like Ronald McDonald's been got black and has been on crack. There's something
She
wrong
looks
with
like a
her.
she looks like a tall Bushwick Bill.
It's
But
true. Or she
we got
looks like a molded dust broom. Anyway, okay.
what about Cory Booker? Because
Oh my
Cory,
God. Yeah.
he look like a spoiled ham.
Well, remember that joke I told? What's the difference between Santa Claus and Cory Booker?
What?
Santa Claus never loses his beard.
Ah!
Oh
I'm
shit!
waiting for him to bring out some woman he's supposed to marry. If gay is so fashionable, just be a faggot, Corey. Damn.
Cory Booker looks like Mr. Potato Head Jr., man.
Yeah, and Wes Moore, the guy running for governor in Maryland, he was running around with his tight shirt so you could see the nipples in his shirt. I hope there are no pins in it. Anyway,
And what's more, yeah, he looks like an
no,
in-shape George Foreman.
I
Um,
know. And he looks like Mr. Freeze screwed Catwoman, man. Just saying.
And he
Anyway,
is trying to get them to replace us. So if you're in Maryland, you need to try to probably vote for Cox. I'm not
yeah,
100% on the political arena for the governor in Maryland, but I know that
Wes
Westmore
Moore
is
is so
trying to
good.
replace us.
And by
And
the
we
way,
don't want that.
and if you're a feminist, vote for his name because that's what you want, Cox. Okay, you don't want more whore. I call him Wes Moore, Wes Whore Moore, because he's gonna whore more than what we've ever seen before. And people have to stop this. In fact, that's an erasure. Y'all need to know, and here in DC, they want to give the illegals the right to vote by mail. That means you can have your 5-year-old kids vote. Now, you know how they have all those bastards and such? Can you imagine? Do you know Prince George's County is 24% non black, not to mention the white people? Black folks in the richest county in the country where they're so insular, and forgive me, I'm not trying to pick on you, Eve, but you want me some dumb fuck niggas that have made it? Trust me, dumb fuck niggas that are unconscious can make it in America. And their heaven is Prince George's County. There's actually nigger heaven. I live just a few miles from it. I don't want to go. If DC is hell, I'm going to stay here. Because Negroes in Prince George's, they don't even teach black history in a predominantly black school district. It's wild. It's just, they don't think, I live in a $500,000 heirloom estate home. My kids don't have to know who they are. I'm serious. You go in these houses, they're really cheaply built. They're lucky that no hurricane has hit Prince George's County because all those niggas are going to be in flattened homes with no flood insurance, and the state of Maryland will not help them. Black folks are so clueless. Damn. Damn.
They
Part of
voted
it, part
themselves out of existence with the whole sanctuary city. How is a whole county going to be a sanctuary city? And for what it's worth, my parents and family who live up there, I don't get it. They're voting for their demise in
they,
real time.
you know what? They don't want to be like DC. That's black folks hating themselves so much. And I'm serious. I work for the county council, and they never do anything for the areas of the county that are black folks and working class. In fact, let me just say this. If you're in Prince George's County, you're stupid as fuck if you live in Suitland, Oxon Hill, Forestville, because you have these huge communities that are unincorporated. So they get less state money, less federal money, less services. And all the white areas, Laurel, Bowie, they're incorporated. So black folks who are the majority don't even think about having any power. Can you imagine? That's like a person in bed with Beyonce not wanting to have an erection. It's not like Jay-Z's doing much. You should do something if you're there. I mean, what's up with us? And I'm not a genius. That's what bothers me. I'm not deep into politics, but they're so stupid. And Suitland, Forestville, Temple Hill, they're so stupid that the postal people can't figure out which community is which.
because they can't figure it out. They've never mapped it out. Black folks accept everything. You know what? If black folks were to die and become another animal, a coon, you know what they'd become? A hog or a rat because they accept everything.
That's some real talk right there.
Okay, now let's go back to
Look,
erasure. We had to do. Hold on, do my cash app. Now that made somebody mad. Let's do one more commercial.
let's
Let's do a commercial. Hold on, then I'll go. While I'm answering questions, because I got to get some more books. My cash app is DR. Randy Short. DRRANDYSHORT. Or you can Zelle or PayPal me at wrandyshort@gmail.com. Have you put that up in the Jumbotron, Sister Eve?
Yes, I did, Dr.
Because
Short.
we
And your
put it up there
books.
again. Put it up there
I
again.
will. But look,
We
can
absolutely
you
need
do
to
me
do
this
this.
favor? I
Yes,
need
love.
your YouTube link. That's the one I can't find. I
Oh,
can't find it. I
it's
don't
it's
know.
it's DRS1 C Buster. That stands for Dr. Randy Short Coon Buster. I can't use my name in YouTube or Twitter or they'll take me off. Brother Dwann, just the other day, I said, Dwann, please don't use my name. I'm not supposed to be on here. So
And for
I'm
those of you,
engaging.
another commercial. Dr. Randy Short, he had a dope breakdown of that no voting, no bucking. We had it on my YouTube channel. Y'all can look it up at it's Dwann B, the same way I spelled my Instagram, my Twitter, but it's put a space, Dwann space. There's a space bar, not the little underscore. Dwann B, but with a space in between. You'll find my YouTube and Dr. Short. He went in. And what happened as he was going in on what went on with the no bucking, no voting, they cut our stream like they like to do, and we had some technical difficulties. So there is a part one and a part two. Part one's only like 16 minutes, but that's where he's laying the foundation down. And you're gonna want to go back and listen to that 15 minutes of part one, and then go ahead and finish it off of part two. And so Dr. Short and and if you missed any part of this, this will be uploaded to my YouTube channel and also to Dr. Randy Short's YouTube channel also. So if you miss any part of this, you'll be able to go back and listen to it on YouTube. But Dr. Short, I got some people with some questions. I want you to finish what you got to say, and then I want to see if you guys answer some questions from some people in
Well,
the chat.
we need to do a part two. So we need to do a part two. But I would just say this: we're gonna get into gender and a second part if y'all want to do this. Even if I have to do it, and you can join us, Brother Dwann. But I'm open to answering questions because we can always move forward. And I want
Let's
to tell everybody, definitely join me in Twitter and join me on my YouTube. Get out there because I need me 1,000 people. I definitely need me 1,000 so we can go back to raising hell in the old time way. Okay, bring on
we're
the
gonna do
questions, brother.
we're gonna do we're just gonna do the three people who are in the queue. We're gonna ask their questions, answer their questions. I don't know if I'm gonna answer them anymore because I know I have to get out of here pretty soon. So we're just gonna take the three people who are already here. I don't know who was first.
Friedman is first.
Peace to Dwann B, for this great space. Salute to the lovely co-hostess, Just Eve. Now, I appreciate Dr. Short. That man always spitting that Friedman fire. Um, are black men and women being erased? Absolutely. It's always been an erasure of our culture and our history due to the system of white supremacy. Um, are we pushing back against that? Absolutely. These spaces is an example of us pushing back against it. Our delineation and our reparations and the traction and the momentum, it has been protracted, and we are pushing back against that genocide because it is a war we are in. It is a genocide. Um, I appreciate spaces like this because we get to build, we get to exchange information, and we get to be honest, and we get to keep this. I'll say it's beyond this, but our Friedman message into the consciousness, the Friedman consciousness. Let's go beyond black consciousness. The Friedman consciousness and inject it into the critical masses. That lexicon, the critical masses consciousness, even the mainstream masses. We've seen the coon, Ketanji Jackson, talk about the freedmen. We've seen the coon, cop Mala Harris, talk about the Freedmen Bank. And even in that, they were trying to, well, not Ketanji, she actually gave credit due to the 14th Amendment, but Cop Mala, she even tried to erase us with the Freedmen Bank and tried to include minorities and people of color. So it's a constant war and a constant battle. And we will only lose if we stop fighting. And I can never see that happening because the freedmen have always been fighters. We are the original freedom fighters of this country. And we are the best. We are the best freedom fighters. In fact, whenever we get something going, everybody wants to come on, pull from our source, pull from our history, pull from our culture. Culture vulture is created because of the freedmen. Those words were created because of the culture vulturing of other people. So, are we being erased? Absolutely, we are. Will they be successful in our erasure? Hell fucking no. Freedmen first and Freedmen on motherfucking deck. I'll crash my plane. Denzel is not flying upside down.
Dope words, man. That's a salute to you, man. That's some real talk, you know. Culture vulture was created because we the only one that people are taking from. Ain't nobody taking. Ain't nobody. I ain't seen a Japanese tall drum in a song in 2 centuries. So you're right about that. Who's next?
Yeah, I'm
That's
next.
gonna
I'm
go on
next.
to JV is next.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Are we being erased? Yeah. The process of erasure, in my opinion, it starts with propaganda or media. And as much as I support my brother Dr. Short, I kind of heard him do the same thing on his stage. Speaking to the degeneracy of our people. Yeah, I don't accept that. How much of us are actually that degenerate person that you were talking about, brother Dr. Short? That we just like uh we just like have our way with women and all of that. Like that propaganda, that type of information or I don't accept that. That's
Well,
not who we
you
are.
don't accept
But
it, but we see it every
I love
day.
you, brother. I
That
wanna
we
I wanna I
we,
wanna
we
talk to you, brother. Can
yeah,
we
but
talk?
brother,
Can we talk, brother? I got the
it's your
stage, right? Do I have the
yeah,
mic, brother?
but
Do I have the mic?
Y'all can't. I'm sorry, Dr. Short, that wasn't on you. And JV, y'all can't talk over each other because then people can't hear. So, Dwan, somebody needs to figure out who's gonna speak, and then they can speak.
Dr. Short can rebut, and then I'll let him
Yeah,
finish.
you're an intelligent man, Dr. Shaw. I'm just responding to you. You don't have to climb on my voice. It's okay, brother. I mean, after I'm done, I
No,
welcome your
but you,
retort.
if
I just
remember
want to.
this, if you, but just understand that if you say something directly about your opinion, they're going to have a lot. They're going to have that person is going to have the opportunity to respond. So that just understand that if you throw it out
Oh,
there,
do they
the
respond while I'm
response will
talking
be,
or after I'm
well,
talking?
go ahead,
Well, how does
go ahead
it
and
work?
finish it off,
How
and
does it work?
then he'll respond.
Dr. Short, like I'm just intellectualizing with you. Like what you did, you put out information or propaganda that I think works against us. How much of us are actually that degenerate or debaucherous? And like that was hurtful, that was harmful. I think that's part of erasure. And I think you should accept my voice. Like that's real. That's what the right wing does. That's what media does. They try to short circuit us by giving us our worst of who we are. I don't necessarily see that. Yes, are there that element in my community? Sure, but I'm not gonna hyper focus on that. I'm gonna hyper focus on you, my brother Dewan, my sister Just Eve. Like, no, I don't want to put that out. It's too much coming, too many microaggressions. I'm tired of hearing that shit. I don't want to hear it, especially from you, Dr. Short. I don't need that type of thing. We're doing too much. We're moving too forward. We're not that person. If we do have that in us, who doesn't, right? Like don't rewire the black community as we're so dysfunctional. We in a fucking dysfunctional fucking world. Like it is what
I
it
get
is.
okay, cool. I get your grievance. I get
Hold
it.
on,
It's
hold on. Can I
I got
land,
it.
fam? Can I land?
I got.
I ain't
Just don't
finished though.
repeat yourself. Just get to the
Oh,
finish of it. Just,
all right,
just
all right,
let him
cool,
play, and
cool,
then we'll let Dr. Short
cool,
go ahead.
cool.
We get
No
that you
doubt.
don't agree with him. So just go ahead.
All right, no doubt. All right, that just was my pushback. I'm gonna say y'all black people are beautiful. Y'all black people are amazing. Y'all doing the great things. We in the Twitter space, elevating, building. And I just want to affirm you people. I want to give y'all affirmations, and that's how I want to position this thing. Respect to you, Dr. Shaw.
All right, Dr. Short.
Very simply, if you ever listen to Malcolm X, if you've ever listened to a nationalist, not a cultural nationalist, but a nationalist, we can do hella better. That's what I mean. And if this is acceptable, what we have, God help anyone that thinks this is acceptable where we are. I never said we're all dysfunctional. I'm saying it's too damn many. It's a problem and it's bad. And people who preach this positivity, I understand we want to look good. I know folks who want to feel good about getting this jab that's killing them. That's as dangerous as any propaganda to tell people everything is great when things are really bad. We can do better. I am a maximalist. I only want one child born out of wedlock in 100. I can't work with 50 or 60%. That's not good. I can't praise that. And I understand the system creates it, but we've got to push back against it as best we can for one another. Reparations begins with us repairing ourselves. Also, when people were enslaved, many people were able to accept it. It was the exceptions like Harriet Tubman and others that ran away, wasn't the majority. So people can be hurt. If it hurts, stop it. Live the best life you're living. God bless you. But there are a whole lot, my friend, that are not. And it's way too many that are not maximizing what they can do. I get anti-Black racism, white supremacy, but we got to deal with the enemy from within. And that's what seems to be the one place we can look at everybody else, but we don't look at ourselves. And I do all Blacks, the elites, the boule, down to the person that just has to take your car battery. We could do better by ourselves. And if this is acceptable, if this is 100%, God help us. That's all I have to say on that.
Dr. Short, that's some dope. I want to respond to that too. You know, because at the end of the day, the darkness can only exist in the areas you don't shine light on it. And it's to call out what's really happening at an alarming rate is not propaganda. That's just telling. That's called telling the truth. No matter how you are, in every individual on earth, me, you, all of us, we have areas of our life we have to work on. If you go around life saying, okay, everything is good, but then every time you look up, you fall out with your friends every 2 or 3 years, you got a whole new set of friends, but you keep saying everything is good. Oh, I'll just be losing friends every now and again, but that's not a problem. No, how are you going to grow? How are you going to develop in life? How are you going to get to the next level? So culturally, as a group, we have to bring light to the people who are doing these things that are holding us back, things that we can solve within. We know we're dealing with racism. We know racism, white supremacy is the reason for the condition that we're in. We understand that. But there are certain things within this fishbowl of white supremacy that we're in that we can do to minimize our issues so that when it is time to face the white supremacists, we're not dealing with people. If I'm coaching a basketball game and I got 5 guys on the court, but it's one guy, every time I pass him the ball, he dribbling the ball off of his ankle. He can't shoot, hitting the side of the backboard. I'm dropping dimes for him to hit a layup. He going up and fumbling the ball out of bounds. I can't, no matter how good my team is, I can have Kobe, Jordan, Magic, Kareem, all these niggas. But if I have one of them on the team, when it's his turn to get the ball and he don't do nothing with it, he can't fumble, he keep fumbling the ball, he keep messing things up, I can't say, man, well, the rest of us is doing good, man. I made my shot. Shit. I passed. You see that no-look pass I made? You can't do that. No, you got to handle this dude on the court saying, if you dribble the ball off your ankles again, I'm passing you this shit. I'm putting you on the bench and putting somebody else in the game. That's what we're doing right now when we have these type of conversations. We taking the cat that's on the court that's messing the game up. The other 4 of us is balling. But this cat right here is making us lose the game. He ain't playing defense. He ain't sliding his feet. He not protecting the paint. Or if I'm doing music, we in the band, we playing together. The drummer sound good. The bass player sound good. But the keyboard player playing out of time. I can't say everything else sounds good. I gotta address that keyboard player that's playing minor chords on a song with major chords. That's what we're doing. So when we're having these type of conversations, I don't want to act like I don't respect people's feelings, but feelings don't come into conversations, like into part of the conversation. If it hurts, look, I'm a musician. If somebody's playing off key, we gonna call their ass out. Be damn how you feel. We got to get these notes right. That's what we're doing right now. So I respect your feelings. I respect everybody's feelings. I want everybody to feel good. But how these conversations make you feel, that just doesn't come into the equation. Go ahead. Great Black Shark. I see you. I know you're gonna say something real quick, Black Shark. So say something real quick, and then we'll get to Miriam.
Yes, I agree with you, Dr. Short, and I'll be very brief. If you're going to attain victory on any battlefield, you have to take an accurate assessment of what's on that battlefield and come up with a strategy for what's really there, not what you feel is there or what you think is there. And see, one of the main responsibilities of manhood and proper black male leadership, we have to be the ones to make the tough decisions. We have to be the ones to say exactly what something is, and you put your feelings to the side and you deal with reality. So I'll land with that, and that's where we better go with this, or else we're finished as a people.
Real talk. Miriam, then we're gonna see what you have to say. Then we'll get back to Dr. Short.
Indeed. And I know Dr. Short is well capable, very capable of handling any riff-raff or anybody who's over projecting towards him. But I'll say this, because our brother, our elder in chief, has a proven record in this foundational Black American movement. I'm not going to say who are you, but the audacity of you to try to check him when he can teach you. I'm not saying you can't disagree, but watch your tone. Okay? We're not going to deal with disrespect towards him. I love him because we spiritually belong to one clan. If you were present, you would have heard what he said about East St. Louis, Illinois, and the fact that he was having dreams about the riots that happened and how spiritually he was connecting with different people that were in Missouri, but their ancestry came out of East St. Louis. And so I'm very protective over him. And that's how we going to move when you try to come sideways at one of our most prestigious elder teachers, master teachers in this game. And I had a lot of issues to touch upon, but I will yield my time to the one who is greatly respected and loved in this room. You may have a difference of opinion, but like they say, and I'm a whole 100% natural, organic, foundational Black American woman. I don't have emotions put in this. Brother, put those to the side. That's what he was talking about, bitchness. Bitch made stuff and how men come towards one another. This is nothing but a positive space that we are building on. And yes, we have the right to do some straightening. Yes, we have the right to call out what's going on, because you can't just skip to the cure-all and we feeling great. No, when it's a wound that's festering. And we have to pull out the nastiness, the stink, and point at it all and discuss it so we can truly have a resolution to the problem. And I'll yield my time to Dr. Short.
Thank you for that, sister, because and you hit upon a key point, and that's also why, and I respect what the brother, and I respect you do as a man, but at the end of the day, when it comes to Dr. Short and people like Dr. Short, when you're dealing with your elders and people who are older than you and people who've been in the game longer than you and people who've been doing what they do, you have to have a certain level of respect. No, you're not equal. You don't have the standing to question his delivery or what he's saying. This is a person that, like I said, I know Dr. Short can defend himself, but this is what I have to say about it. Dr. Short is someone who has done what he's done, and his perspective comes from a lifetime of trying to solve the problem. So if somebody, and this is for everybody in general, if somebody is saying something you may personally disagree with, it may personally make you feel a certain way. Understand the source and where it's coming from. Is it coming from somebody who's been spending their life
trying to solve the problem. If it is, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, you might need to sit there and listen, and then at the end of the day, after that, see how you can play your part in being in helping be a solution to whatever problem that elder is saying. And that's just a matter of respect and how to live your life as a gentleman, because we're more than some ratchet dudes. We're not these degenerates. At the end of the day, black people, we're still classy, and that's the standard that Dr. Short and I are elevating us to, or want us to elevate to. Not the lowest common denominator, but us at our best. The way we excel on the basketball court, that's what we want us to excel in life. And anything less than that, we're going to keep having these conversations. But Dr. Short, I want you to close it out with whatever you want to say, however you want to close it out. I want you to go ahead, brother.
Mm-hmm. When I taught in school, one of the worst things that I experienced was from the positivity box black folks, where we were told to give students A grades that didn't even come to school, give students A grades that they couldn't read. On the college level, just pass them because they need the positive stroke, which means that these kids are graduating and they're not prepared to face what's going on. And the rationalization is they'll learn in life, they'll be okay. It's as dangerous to say everything's okay as it is to be what? A Candace Owens who hates black people's guts, who's not FBA, or others. People need to have a spiritual maturity to hear the difference between someone that hates black people and somebody that expects great things from black people. It may sound the same. It may even be expressed similarly, but it's a whole different place where it comes from. To conflate the two reflects an imbalance in one's understanding or listening. I worked in news media. I know about propaganda. I also know this, and I'm very clear on it. Every single solitary nationalistic leader of every people around the world has always gotten on their people's nerves, because a lot of us are minimalist. If one kid out of 10 has a dad, they say, well, at least some of them have fathers. A maximalist wants all 10. And so I found a lot of people, in particular in the Boule, and folks that don't even realize how they're enemies to their own people and how they perceive the things, justify things that don't have to be. We can do better. If we had 9 out of 10 kids with their fathers in 1960, why can't we do that now? Why not? What's wrong with that? And what's wrong if I saw and grew up with it and saw it all get destroyed, and I laid out the foundation of white racism and white supremacy and all that to be done, and I talk about the condition? How is that negative? To show the outcome of what this is and what we can do even on an individual basis to push back. To find that as an attack on black people is curious to me. And if folks don't like the way I talk, I come from a preacher background. Preachers say stuff that make folk mad because folks need to, it says, preach in season and out of season. And right now, right is out of season. What a man is out of season. What a woman is out of season. What a family is out of season. Who we are as a people in many instances is out of season. And so we push against all of it. The difference is the black conservatives, who I know, fear me. They fear me. Black folks who don't know the difference between what I call a Republican and a black nationalist need prayer. I'm going to stop there. I have another interview to do, but we didn't even get to the gender part, brother. But I want to say again, when I see, what's his name, Billy Porter, and I see this salsa, and I see Lizzo, and I see all this, and I know they're paid by other people, some of them Khazars. Do they have to betray us like this? Is it acceptable for the music to go into the garbage? Is it acceptable for pedophile preachers to be the ones held up before the people? If this is acceptable, it's like Lot and Sodom. The angels had to get him out because he got used to being in the hog pen. If you love your people, you hate them being in the hog pen. There's a difference between hating a person, being in a hog pen, and hating the person. A lot of our people have a problem with the nuance. Basically, don't bother me. Let me do whatever. That is the origin of a lot of where our enemies have an inroad. Let me go to the store. That they don't serve our people, that don't hire our people. I just want to get some. I hear this a lot. Positivity is quite dangerous. In fact, I see the feminists tell us, so you should weigh 800 pounds. You're beautiful. Oh, well, women in Africa are big. And this same broad has bulimia and anorexia, starving herself to death to look like a boy to attract a white man, but tells a black woman she's beautiful when she weighs 800 pounds and then laughs because she knows that nobody wants to be with anyone that big, or if they are, it's an issue. We need to be very careful about not being critical in our thinking. We need to be very careful about how dangerous it is, because I'll say this and I'll stop. I remember the same sorts of conversations about Barack Obama and us warning people he's going to destroy us, he's going to hurt us. I remember the same conversations about Anthony Williams, he's going to hurt us, he's going to destroy us. And people started saying, be positive, you always criticize this and that. And then you watch your people get destroyed. And so what does that make someone who's seen this all before do? It makes us more strident in how we communicate, because there's no nice way to say, wake up, genocide's going on. I land my plane.
Thank you for that, Dr. Short. Looking to jump up Sean for Dr. Short's Cash App. Please, 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 please donate to him. Follow my YouTube show. We Dr. Short and I have these discussions regularly on YouTube. I have a lot of content where we have this thought-provoking conversation. This episode will be loaded up to YouTube. And so if you miss any parts, you can go back and listen to the first part when Dr. Short was here before he got disconnected, and any part of it. And then in my Incense and Ashtrays, my Black Family Music Tree, incenseandashtrays.com, Hotepish.
And we didn't finish. We didn't even get to the gender.
Right.
But that's okay. We need to do a part 2. We need to do a part 2. We didn't get to finish. And people need to listen to the whole canon of what somebody says, not just a piece.
Maybe we can
cherry picking. It's never a good way to look at things.
Yeah, maybe we do a part 2 because on Tuesday, I do 3 different podcasts on Tuesday. So maybe on Wednesday, or maybe tomorrow. We'll see. We'll put a notice out there. We'll talk Dr. Short, whatever. We'll make schedules. We'll get it done.
Sure.
And because we do want to talk, because on Tuesday I will be on Fox Soul addressing again, that's where the thing came from. We're gonna be addressing, should trans people identify themselves, to the rest of us, so that's gonna be the question that we're answering and talking about on Fox Soul this coming Tuesday. So after I do that, maybe sometime Tuesday night or Wednesday, we'll have a reaction to that, and Dr. Short will get into the discussion on gender and all that good stuff. But I appreciate y'all. And for Dr. Short, remember I always say there are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages for those who are willing to pick up the game. Thank y'all for listening. We out.